A minute's applause to remember the former Brighton manager Barry Lloyd as we welcome listeners from BBC World Service on this Sunday afternoon at the Amex Stadium. Brighton 11th in the Premier League table, 9 points from their 6 games so far, and Spurs, who are a point ahead of them but a few places up in 8, both with the opportunity to move into the top 6. And Tottenham, of course, on this magnificent run where everything feels like it's beginning to slot together for Ange Postecoglou's team. He is right out on the edge of his technical area as we prepare to get going with his hands in his pockets, and we are off and underway with Brighton going from right to left in this first half. I'll give you the two teams in just a moment. Highline derby, that seems to be the tagline for this one, Mark Warburton.
Very much so.
Hold that thought. Immediately Spurs on the front foot. Werner across goal. Johnson on the stretch. Couldn't quite get there. Talking of high lines, Brighton nearly unpicked in the first 20 seconds by Tottenham.
That was a huge chance there. Just 30 seconds in there, but a great movement, good football through. Pace shown by Werner on that left flank here. Just inches away from a glorious start for Spurs.
Well, if that is a sign of things to come, this is going to be a frantic afternoon.
But again, the ball turns over quickly, gaps are exposed, and you saw how quickly Spurs can move forward. Brighton are equally as devastating going forward, Chris, so more of the same, hopefully.
That ball was probably about a foot out of the reach of the sliding Brennan Johnson. The ball is out of play. It's a Spurs throw halfway inside Brighton's half on this right-hand side. And these are the two teams. Verbruggen in goal for Brighton, Veltman, Dunk, Webster and Kadiolu. And then Belieber and Hinshelwood, Minte, Ruta, Mitoma and Welbeck, as Maddison gives away a free kick for a foul on Belieber on the edge of Brighton's penalty area. And the Spurs team unchanged from the win at Manchester United, which probably won't surprise too many. Remember, still no Son Heung-min because of that hamstring injury. Vicario in goal, Porro, Romero, Van de Ven and Udogie. And then Kulusevski, Bentancur, Maddison, with Johnson and Werner either side of Dominic Solanke. And here come for the first time Brighton on that far right-hand side. A sliding challenge from Mickey Van de Ven on Yankuba Minte. And it is a Brighton throw halfway inside Tottenham's half on the far right. 2 minutes in, Brighton 0, Tottenham 0. Mark Warburton.
Yeah, early you saw the movement there. Brighton's intent to play out from the back. Veltman becomes their outball on so many occasions. And once again, we saw that clip ball out, and he can make progress down their right flank.
And Brighton trying to make progress into Spurs' penalty area. The deflected cross has bounced once and into the grasp of the Tottenham goalkeeper, Guglielmo Vicario. So, already today in the Premier League, 2 draws, Aston Villa 0, Manchester United 0, which you heard on 5 Live. We had on Sports Extra, Chelsea 1, Nottingham Forest 1. What does this have in store for us as Kulusevski scampers away down the right hand for Spurs? He is already into Brighton's final third. Lewis Dunk is up against him. Kulusevski's in the box on his left foot, deflected shot up and over the bar, Tottenham corner.
Game is so open already here, Chris. You've got a lovely touch from Johnson, very slight, but it released Kulusevski there, and Spurs got numbers forward, Maddison and Werner on the far post as well, so clear attacking intent.
This could be great, couldn't it, today?
It's tremendous watch with 2 or 3 minutes in here, Chris.
Short corner given to Kulusevski, who was trying to bombard his way through a challenge, and Brighton managed to sweep it away up to the halfway line. So let's go to Ashton Gate in that championship game between Bristol City and Cardiff City, because there's been a goal, Molly Stevens.
There has indeed. Bristol City with the equaliser. Luke McNally with a peach of a header into the top right hand corner. It's all level here. Bristol City 1, Cardiff City 1.
Well, that was a 3 o'clock kick-off, as it was at Pittodrie between Aberdeen and Hearts, and there has been some activity there, Gavin.
Yes, Chris, Aberdeen 2, Hearts 2. Duke had put the afterburners on down this left-hand side. Georgie Grant was so cynical, took the legs from him, and John Beaton, no hesitation to give him a second yellow card. Hearts down to 10 men, Aberdeen 2, Hearts 2.
That is an absolute belter of a game. Celtic winners earlier today at Ross County came from behind to do so. Rangers against St Johnstone, 8 o'clock kick-off tonight in the Scottish Premiership. Here's Werner, he's having a good game so far. Trickier on the left-hand side, low ball in, met by Webster, edge of his 6-yard box, the Brighton defender, and he heaves it out of play on the far left for a Spurs throw.
But again, Chris, as expected before kick-off, we saw the high line of Brighton. Dominic Solanke so keen to time his run and break that high line, almost in again there. So both teams will take risk undoubtedly this afternoon.
As Tottenham play it between their 2 centre-halves, Van de Ven and Romero, and he's played a fast ball forward to Werner, who has helped it on down that left-hand side for Destiny Udogie, who Spurs will be pleased to have him fit, having missed that Europa League win at Ferencváros during the week.
I think Ange will be pleased with what he's seen so far, Chris. They're getting space, they get opportunities to play forward on both flanks now. We see Kulusevski here on the right, likewise Werner, and once again here, there's a break of the line.
Romero forward, Maddison, first touch was neat, and the second he fizzed towards goal, and it was Webster who got over there and blocked it. It was goal bound towards Verbruggen's goal. What a pass from Romero, Mark.
But again, look at that, you see the Brighton are trying to come out, good timing of run by Maddison, done it really well. He's 2 or 3 yards onside, Chris. We're going to see this time and time again.
That was an excellent recovery run by Adam Webster to get across the path of James Maddison. He came in for a lot of criticism, Adam Webster, after his mistake against Chelsea last week, which led to one of the 4 first-half Chelsea goals they scored against Brighton. Maddison with this corner. Spurs going from left to right in this first half towards the south stand, where their away supporters are. Maddison right-footed in towards Van der Ven, who got a little touch on it. Sends it all the way out to the opposite side, to the right, where Kulusevski collects it. Veltman with the strong challenge. It bounces up off the Swede, so it's going to be a Brighton throw.
I've got to say, Chris, we're only what, 5 minutes into the game here, but Spurs look sharp, they look quicker to the ball here, there's real purpose about their play. There's no doubt Brighton would have known what's coming this afternoon, but we're seeing it here on full display.
5 wins in a row for Tottenham, haven't done that since Jose Mourinho led them to it in early 2021. Can they make it 6 today and really ignite their challenge for Champions League football next season? Welbeck infield for Brighton. Here is Belieber, now with Joel Veltman, who was unwell last week, so couldn't play for Brighton in that defeat at Chelsea. Then Webster from the centre-half position sends a long ball forward. Vicario's outside of his box, and the Tottenham goalkeeper very calmly heading it. And then, have they given it away? Spurs, Van der Ven stepping in to help a doggy out, who did give it away initially.
He did, but good cover by Van der Ven. A nice start point also by the goalkeeper Vicario. He knows all about the line, Chris, obviously. Just looking here, up the problem, one of the Brighton centre halves was down. Just trying to see who it is here, Chris.
I think it might be Adam Webster who is on the ground here. Lewis Dunk is over with him. Webster has got his hands across his face. Verbruggen is leaning over him with a look of concern as well. And from Webster's ball forward, does he turn an ankle, Mark?
I think it's his hamstring.
Is it?
It looks like his hamstring. As he kicked the ball there, he clutched the back of his leg straight away, Chris. Hopefully not, but it doesn't look too promising here for Brighton and for the player.
Well, this might force Fabian Özil's hand very early on here if he's going to be forced into a change. Remember, he is without Jan-Paul van Hecke, who would probably be a regular in his back line, so he might have to call on Igor here to come off the bench if Webster can't continue.
Could be a problem in terms of physicalities. We saw from that set piece, good delivery, and Van der Ven attack it. They need the height and that to counter the threat of Spurs here, so it'll be interesting to see what the manager does here, Chris.
Just ever so slightly contemplating sitting up here, Adam Webster, but clearly the Brighton centre-back is in a fair bit of discomfort.
No, I can't see how he carries on from that position. He immediately cuts the back of his leg. Hopefully not too severe, but it didn't look great for the player, the way he reacted there, Chris. Never good to see so early in the game.
I'm talking in the recent couple of weeks about Brennan Johnson and him switching off his social media. Well, Adam Webster had to do exactly the same thing this week. He posted out a message apologising for his mistake at Chelsea, and he took so much abuse that he had to deactivate his social media
Chris,
account.
I've got to be honest, I was disheartened to see that. I read all of that and saw that, and there's a player who's given tremendous service to the club. I was not saying appalled, too strong a word, and fans can vent their opinion, but there's a player that's given everything for Brighton. I thought it was really, really poor to see last week.
And I think to give that some balance as well, he made an amazing goal line block, Adam Webster, in that game at Chelsea.
He's a very good player, as I say, been a fantastic servant to Brighton. This is sorry to see so early in the game. It looks a nasty tear to the hamstring, and you can see the player's reaction, Chris. It tells you everything.
Yeah, given the week he has had, this is a very difficult early departure from the Amex for Adam Webster. So Brighton's number 4 is off. There is a slap of hands with Igor, who is on in his place. 33 minutes he got last week against Chelsea, still looking for his first Premier League start of the season, the Brazilian, but he is on into Brighton's back line, and we are back underway. 9 minutes played, 0-0 here between Brighton and Spurs. So let's check in on what's happening in the Gallagher Premiership game between Saracens and Exeter. Adam Whitty.
Saracens coasting to a third win in 3 in the division. They lead by 29 points to 14. We've got 90 seconds left and Sarries have shut up shop for the day. Exeter unable to get through their defensive line, and they won't make a further impact, I would imagine, in the last minute or so. Saracens 29, Exeter 14, 79 minutes gone.
He was dunked with the clipped ball forward for Brighton. Van der Ven flicking it over his own head on the edge of his penalty area. Bentancur has then lost it. Welbeck might be able to get there. Romero with a strong challenge. Spurs have still got some work to do to clear this away because it's loose on the left side of their penalty area at the moment. And then Udogie under pressure from Belieber. It's not a foul, but the last touch has come off the Brighton man. So Spurs have got a throw. 0-0.
Good referee there, Chris, as well. The player was looking for the foul and the referee was strong in his decision making, so nice to see.
Ange Postecoglou, Marcus, hardly moved from his position on the edge of his technical area, and he hasn't taken his hands out of that big coat that he's wearing at all in the first 10 minutes.
No, well, I saw his reaction to early chance, and that was a huge chance after less than 30 seconds. Once again here, Maddison breaking the lines. You can see their plan, their game plan. It was clear before the game, Chris, but the gaps are opening up, and that change of Brighton's defence won't be helpful to them for sure.
Just too much on that pass for Porro for James Maddison, but he on a couple of occasions now has made that run from a deeper area.
We're seeing Maddison and Kulusevski both make the run. There's good width being maintained by Werner and Brennan Johnson on this right flank here, and Solanke's movement we know is very clever, so really strong attacking intent, and they're causing Brighton early problems.
James Maddison, of course, who was not picked by Lee Carsley for the upcoming England internationals against Finland and Greece, which we'll have for you on 5 Live in the days ahead. Out to the left-hand side for Brighton. Mitoma quick enough to keep it in play, but the offside flag is up against Karo Mitoma, and Fabian Hürzeler is leaping around in his technical area ahead of us and is just getting a word to settle down from the 4th official, Andrew Madley.
It is off. It's tight. It's very, very tight, and I'm not sure Fabian should be jumping quite like that, but close call by the linesman, but a good call.
Fabian Hürzeler, who has been red carded at the Amex Stadium already this season because he was sent off here in the game against Nottingham Forest. Another long ball forward. Kulusevski for Tottenham inside the penalty area by the byline. Brighton retreating. Kulusevski in towards the near post. Flicked away out to Mitoma for Brighton on this near left-hand side, but at the moment on the edge of Brighton's own penalty area until Rutes spins away from danger. Nicely done by him. Out to the left-hand side for Welbeck. Brilliant 12 minutes so far. Brighton 0, Spurs 0. Here's Welbeck, nowhere to go, and so he gives it back to Hinshelwood, and Brighton will try and rebuild. And then Welbeck opens the legs up, tries to go between a couple of challenges, and gets the free kick for Brighton right in the middle of the park, probably about 40 yards from Vicario's goal.
Just from a Spurs perspective though, Chris, we saw Solanke drop nicely into the hole, drag the centre half with him, and Kulusevski run beautifully into the channel, and there again the ball over the top and Spurs win again. So clear ploy there from Spurs, but now we have Brighton in a really good attacking position.
Looks like it is the young Jack Hinshelwood who is placing the ball down with the thought, I imagine, of trying to clip this in towards the far post, because Lewis Dunk has gone and taken up a position on the edge of Spurs penalty area, the Brighton centre-back. Brighton 0, Tottenham 0 on 5 Live and via the World Service. And Hinshelwood with his arms draped either side of him, just assessing the situation. He does lift it up, it's in the direction of Mitoma. Romero had a free header to clear it away for Spurs, and Lewis Dunk, who was coming back from an offside position, couldn't touch that, so it's out of play for a Spurs throw. It's all over with you, Adam Whitty. Saracens Exeter.
Yeah, Saracens have won 29-14. Frightening good display from Saracens, who have hung, drawn and quartered Exeter in a 5-try win. Earl with 2, Jamie George getting 1-2. Sarries 3 wins from 3. They look ominously good. Exeter have lost their first 3 in the Premiership for the first time ever. Full time, Saracens 29, Exeter 14.
Cheers, Adam. Here is Vicario, the Spurs goalkeeper, out to Christian Romero, who will be heading off for Argentina duty after this. They've got a couple of World Cup qualifiers against Venezuela and Bolivia. Here's Van der Ven, who hasn't had the opportunity to open up those legs so far, Mark Warburton, but you sense it might be coming at some stage.
No, we've seen the quality in recent games, haven't we? And more so than Man United, so he has that pace to break forward, and Brighton will be very aware of that for sure. It's more the rotation for the Spurs at the moment, Chris, which has been so impressive. Maddison dropping deep, Udogie going beyond him there, and it's causing Brighton no end of problems.
Nicky Van der Ven, it is the one who's ended up on the floor under the challenge of Jorginho Ruta, so it's a Spurs free kick on the halfway line, 0-0 between Brighton and Tottenham. No surprise to hear that on all the statistics that the BBC have done this week, that Mickey van der Ven in these opening few weeks of the Premier League season is the fastest player in the division, clocked at 23 miles per hour, so he can move quicker than you can drive through your local village, Mark.
Absolutely, Chris, but we've seen when you do play the high line and you're meeting the demands of the managers they are, you need to have that pace to fall back on, and I think someone mentioned it earlier in the show, maybe Joe Hart, that they have that advantage over Brighton, certainly in terms of that pace at the back line.
Spurs with a few interchanges of passes in midfield, but then play a loose one, and Matoma now has it for Brighton. Good challenge from Porro to get it back off him. Kulusevski, space on the right hand side into Brighton's box, low ball across the edge of the penalty area, and it was struck at by Werner, but it was moving always away from goal, and Brighton retrieve it with Matoma, who's played a sharp pass out to Welbeck on the left hand side, but Tottenham are hassling Kariolu and then Igor, and he's had to go back to Verbruggen, but over goes Werner to try and close down Lewis Dunk. The press from Spurs is impressive.
It is impressive, but all credit Brighton, they've worked it out to their right side now, and they're breaking down their right flanks. They've moved the ball very nicely and broken the press, but Spurs are working hard. We know the stats, both teams run hard and sprint hard, so again that press was, they're working hard, but Brighton worked through it.
Minte tried to cut inside there and couldn't quite escape the attentions of the one or two Spurs players that had surrounded him, so we're still waiting for our first goal of the afternoon at the Amex Stadium between Brighton and Tottenham. But you've had a very busy day, Gavin, at Pidoggio.
Oh, we have, Chris. We've had our fifth goal of the afternoon now. It's Ante Palaversa for I'm just checking actually, it's definitely given Ante Palaversa. It was a ball in from Duke, and he was there to just smash it home from 6 yards. Aberdeen 3, Hearts 2.
Doggy's cross from the left hand side, blocked well by Veltman, and then the ball must have bounced back off Destiny Udogie, because referee David Coote has given a Brighton goal kick here.
Spurs fans not impressed by that decision, Chris, that's for sure. But again, I would say, looking at Ange's reaction, they've got into these wide areas on 3 or 4 occasions so far in the game and haven't really maximised up that final bit of quality. So he'll be keen to make sure they get to some great areas, need to get their rewards now.
Former Celtic manager Ange Postecoglou. I'm sure that Glasgow Rangers and Glasgow Celtic fans probably won't appreciate me saying this, but how refreshing it is to have a third name in that Scottish Premiership title race in the form of Aberdeen, even if it is the early weeks.
Well, as a Rangers man, I'll be very careful how I respond to that, Chris, but no, certainly it'll be an interesting title race this year.
Here's Bentancur under pressure from Igor, too much pressure from the Brighton substitute, on for the injured Adam Webster. He's pushed him over. Spurs free kick in the centre circle, just inside their own half, taken short by Romero, who's given it to Pedro Porro with the orange boots, out to the right hand side for the informed Brennan Johnson, who's just nicked it further down the line for Kulusevski. On the right wing, Kulusevski on his left foot, he's played it short back in field for Porro, and he's gone back further still for Romero. 17.5 minutes in, Spurs in the all green, going from left to right as Porro pushes it down the line. Kulusevski at the byline now. He's got some pressure on his back, Kulusevski, but he's kept hold of the ball for Spurs, who are enjoying a spell of possession here. Back with Romero again, and now Van der Ven, who is 15 yards inside Brighton's half, and he's played it out to the left hand side for Timo Werner, and Werner has got away from Veltman well, and then the delivery wasn't good, but it bounced off Believer, and it nearly came into the path of Dominic Solanke for Spurs. That would have been a real gift. Off all of that, Brighton have got a throw, but it could have been a lot worse.
It could have been, Chris, but that's that area again. Timo Werner does well to get past the defender. He's got an unopposed cross, and it goes straight to a white and blue shirt, so Ange will be looking for better quality from those wide areas. But you mentioned Kulusevski, very impressive so far, the timing of his movement. Johnson comes short, Solanke comes short, and he's breaking on beyond the forward of the defensive line, so well played by him so far.
9 chances Dejan Kulusevski created at Old Trafford for Spurs last week, which is the most by any player in a Premier League game for 3 years.
Well, it's very impressive. As I said, they are creating chances, good assists. I mean, it really is getting the rewards, Chris, for all of the good work. You know, you saw again on both flanks so far, Spurs have had maybe 3-4 per side and not really got the rewards yet. So it's important for that in a game of this importance to make sure you get your rewards for these attacking chances.
Mark Warburton, former Brentford, Nottingham Forest, Queen's Park Rangers, and as he notes, Glasgow Rangers manager, with us here on 5 Live. And a foul on Belieber by Werner has given Brighton a free kick, and I think that Ange Postecoglou will be very happy with how Spurs have started, and Fabian Hurtzler might be a little concerned because Brighton haven't warmed up yet.
No, I totally agree with you, Chris, but also reverse that, I think Fabian will be very happy that they're not conceding a goal yet. They could have been one down after 30 seconds, so I think he'll be quite relieved in that respect, and some frustration from Ange not having maximised it. A lot of good play by Spurs so far.
Conceded as many goals, Brighton, in the first half at Stamford Bridge last week, those 4 as they conceded under Fabian Hurtzler in any of their other Premier League games, as Belieber pokes it forward only into the path of Van der Ven, and then Spurs try and break quickly, but Dunk reads the situation, slides in at Solanke's feet, and Brighton get it on the halfway line with Hinshaw Woods, who has been halted by the referee's whistle, but only because he was just waiting to see whether there was any advantage for the foul that happened just before that on Rutter. There wasn't, so a Brighton free kick.
No, a strong challenge came in there from Van der Ven. Brighton get the decision, but there's a real nice tempo to the game, isn't there? There's a nice pace. So the Spurs play as well. They're moving the ball very quickly, limited touches, so it's good to see so far.
And that damp air has just lended to the pitch, having that lovely slick feel to it as well.
Absolutely, Chris. It's really moving at a nice pace to the game, which is good. But here we are again, Dunk taking a free kick, and as I say, Spurs line again high, so looking for good delivery.
Kadiolu had tried to make a run, the Turkish international, from left back, but Dunk wasn't ready to play that pass, and he goes short for Joel Veltman out on that far right hand side. Brighton try to get at Spurs with Rutter, and the last touch has come off him. It's going to be a Tottenham throw, and Udogie has gone scampering to get that ball quickly so they can restart again, and he throws it to Bentancur, and Spurs rebuild. We're almost at the halfway point of the first half here at the Amex Stadium. Brighton 0, Tottenham Hotspur 0.
Interesting, Chris, you look at it, both Spurs wingers stay maintaining their width. Johnson and Werner hugging the touch lines on both flanks here, causing problems to the Brighton fullbacks, and good movement. Now we see Porro break forward on beyond the fullback, and
Johnson's found him as well. Porro to the byline, sends it to the far post, the header towards goal. Did it cross the line from Maddison? The answer is yes. Tottenham leads. Werner got a touch on it, but hang on a second, I think the flag might have gone up. Spurs thought for a moment they were in front, and I think the referee was indicating that he touched his watch as if to say the ball had crossed the line, but maybe the initial pass before that set Pedro Porro away has been flagged for offside by the assistant referee. Mark Warburton, what do you make of all of that?
He looks off to me by a yard, just offside. We've commented on a great run, fullback getting forward, breaking on beyond the defensive line, but I do fear, speak as a Spurs fan of course, Chris, that he might be slightly in advance of that line.
It's very, very tight as that ball is played forward from Johnson to Porro, but the referee definitely indicated the ball had crossed the line
I think the goal would be given should it be onside with the run, but just looking at the bit there, I think he's just fractionally offside. Still waiting for the call here, of course.
We've got that little screen in front of us which is zooming in on Igor, the Brighton centre-half, and the run of Pedro Porro, who is so tough to say whether he is ahead of him or not from that one angle. Really, really difficult. James Maddison is looking longingly towards the referee and towards the touchline just to see if there is any indication that Paul Tierney, today's VAR, is going to give the goal, and the answer is he's not, because Pedro Porro is offside, and Spurs are about to find that out. So it is not a goal. It's still Brighton 0, Tottenham Hotspur 0, but that is a giant let-off for the Seagulls.
It really is, but again we're seeing this forward run, whether it be Kulusevski's from that high midfield position, whether it be a fullback Porro on that occasion. Spurs are happy to commit numbers forward.
Here they come again, Tottenham, they're playing well. Solanke in for Johnson! What a brilliant finish from Brennan Johnson, and what sparkling form he is in. 6 Spurs goals in his last 6 games, made by Solanke, and Johnson so calm and so precise with his finish, slid it to the right hand side of Verbruggen. Tottenham have their rewards at the Amex Stadium for a brilliant first 24 minutes. Brighton 0, Tottenham 1.
Everything encapsulated there, Chris. Solanke's movement to come short and receive and get on that half turn. The timing of movement from Johnson, coming from the wide area, cutting in across the defensive line. Great weight of pass with a tremendous finish. The boys' confidence is sky high, quite rightly so. What a magnificent finish, and Spurs deserve to be one up.
Really, really lovely, neat Spurs goal. Everything about it to be admired. the way they pinched the ball back, the way they wanted to move the ball so quickly from Maddison to Solanke, the run from Johnson, the finish from Johnson. It just strikes of a player and a team who are feeling good about themselves at the moment.
Their confidence is so high, Chris, but again, Solanke's movement is so important. He comes and he tempts the defender. Do I go with him or do I stay? On that occasion, he could half turn and play forward, and all credit Brennan Johnson for the movement and the quality of the finish.
So, Brighton 0, Tottenham Hotspur 1, and Brennan Johnson with 6 goals in his last 6 Tottenham Hotspur games. Would you like to have a guess which Spurs player was the last to achieve that mark? And don't venture too far from the obvious.
No, I won't. I'll leave that to you, Chris. That was still your glory in that one.
It was Harry Kane back in the 2018-19 season for Tottenham Hotspur. And Spurs, who this week posted an image of Brennan Johnson's face on that of the original Ronaldo, because James Maddison did the same a few days ago. Well, he finished that like the old Brazilian Ronaldo. Really beautifully composed when it mattered, and Tottenham get it back again on the halfway line with Bentancur. And Mark Warburton, 25 minutes in, they are stomping all over Brighton.
No, they really are, Chris, and you sense a little bit of frustration from the crowd. They just got away from it there. They nearly lost the ball again on the press. Then Maddison steps in and wins the ball in a good area, and Spurs are dominating the football here, which the home fans obviously don't want to see. So some concerns to the manager.
And the noise is coming from the away end, because the Tottenham fans are enjoying what they are seeing at the moment. But hold that thought. Here's Hinshelwood for Brighton. Welbeck, Mitoma, a deflection off Romero. It might bounce back into Mitoma's path again. In fact, it's come off and down by the byline. So it's going to be a Spurs goal kick. I think it's all over at Pittodrie with you, Aberdeen Hearts, Gavin.
There's indeed all the noise coming from the home end here. Aberdeen 3, Hearts 2, 5 goals, keeping the and of course the 100% record for Aberdeen intact thanks to Antpol Palavares, formerly of Man City. The Croatian slammed home Duke's cutback into the roof of the net. Georgie Grant sent off for a second yellow for Hearts. Aberdeen now on 21 points, right up there with Celtic. That's 8 ahead of Rangers, who play St Johnstone tonight. Aberdeen 3, Hearts 2.
Well, that result could have had an even different complexion had Ross County held on to the lead that they have for so long against Celtic today. Eventually beaten 2-1. Werner racing down the left-hand side with the red boots, up against Veltman, testing him, giving it to Maddison. Maddison on his left boot. Oh, he's done well, Maddison. Change of direction, then he's tumbled. He wants a penalty. Veltman is angry and is asking Maddison to get to his feet. Veltman has gone to help Maddison up. Maddison didn't like that, has sort of playfully swung out at Veltman, who in an equally joking manner has chucked himself onto the ground. It is nothing but a bit of playground stuff between the two of them. Oh, now it's getting a little angry. A few exchanges of words, and the referee having to settle it all, David Coote, with some sharp words of his own.
I'm not sure you want to see that, Chris. You saw what happened there. Maddison thought he had a genuine penalty call. Veltman's reaction there was, I'm saying, poor at best. So the referee, I'm sure, will calm things down very, very quickly.
Well, Veltman is giving the indication with his hands to James Maddison to suggest that was one big dive. You're getting another look at this, Mark, for the first time now. Was it a dive?
Well, his legs got tangled. Whether it's his own leg, I can't really see from the replay, Chris. But I think Maddison went down with all genuine intent, but wasn't too impressed by Veltman's reaction, I have to say.
What sort of response are we going to see from Brighton here? This is Belieber, 10 yards inside Spurs half, swept out to this left-hand side for Mitoma, who's up against Pedro Porro on the angle. He's sent it across goal, Vicario outstretched fully with his arms to his left-hand side to push it away. Tottenham's clearance isn't particularly handy. It's bounced off Mitoma's head, and then from the right-back position, Pedro Porro has sent that high up into the grey sky. Igor watches it come out of it, lands on his head. Mitoma keeps it in play, and Brighton get the ball back again, and the Amex feels it.
Yeah, the crowd need to see some sort of reaction from the team at the moment, Chris. As you say, Spurs have they've had Klaassen for the first 25 minutes, so they want to see a response from their team. They want to see more dynamism in their movement. Spurs have been very, very good, let's be fair, but Brighton are at home and need to impress their fans and need a reaction.
Brennan Johnson with the goal. Brighton 0, Tottenham 1. Brighton, who haven't won any of their last 4 in the Premier League, beaten for the first time this season at Chelsea last week, but of course they've had draws with both Nottingham Forest and with Ipswich here at the Amex Stadium. All over at Ashton Gate, Bristol City, Cardiff, Molly.
The first seven-side derby draw in 9 years, Chris. What an entertaining game. Ollie Tanner opened the scoring with a stunning strike, but Cardiff's lead didn't last long before Luke McNally equalised with a thumping header. Both sides will go away kicking themselves. Some golden opportunities missed. Cardiff stay bottom of the Championship going into the international break. Bristol City 1, Cardiff City 1.
So 1-1 between Bristol City and Cardiff in the Championship this afternoon. We will react to everything that's happened in this afternoon's football in the Premier League, in the EFL, in the Women's Super League, in the Scottish Premiership at half-time as Kadiolu sends it back to Igor, who's had to hurry it back to Verbruggen in all red, and he was in a bit of a rush too, and he's clattered that ball out of play for a Spurs throw halfway inside Brighton's half right-hand side.
Chris, I think I wouldn't be so surprised if Brighton make a change and change something here. At the moment, Spurs' movement is too slick. It's causing far too many problems. Love Kulichevsky's movement. Again, they're so effective with the flick to release forward players. So Spurs dominant as we speak.
On the halfway line with Bentancur, Romero, and then back to Vicario. It's years since Tottenham last kept successive Premier League clean sheets. There wasn't too much doubt that they were going to do it last week at Old Trafford. Here is the Tottenham goal scorer Brennan Johnson, who just looks so alert. Bentancur, a doggy, 10 yards outside Brighton's penalty area. Vernu, seen a lot of the ball, clipping it into the penalty area. It should be Kadiolu's to clear and is. And then Matoma's managed to force it towards Danny Welbeck, who has run it up the pitch, probably about 15 yards, had nowhere else to go, so has retreated and given it to Kadiolu, and it is back to Verbruggen, the Brighton goalkeeper. Mark Warburton.
But again, you saw the ball turn over. Welbeck picked the ball up very quickly, and Bentancur was there to close him down on three Spurs players very quickly around there. So they're working tirelessly with and without the ball, Chris, getting there, closing down, denying space to Brighton and winning the ball effectively.
Has a very different feel, doesn't it, to Tottenham's game here at Brighton last season when they were overawed, and that would be an understatement. Spurs, they were 4-0 down, scored a couple of late goals, but it was a pretty drastic Spurs performance that night.
I think if you're a Spurs fan, Chris, you're seeing them go away in Europe in midweek, pick up the victory to keep that run going, blood some really young players as well and give key players a rest, and you watch them perform like this on a Sunday, so very, very pleasing from a Spurs perspective.
All of Ange's Angels, as they were dubbed during the week, are on the bench today. Archie Gray, Lucas Bergvall, Will Lancashire and Mikey Moore. And they're 1-0 up here, Spurs at Brighton, but Brighton are looking for a response. Mitoma into the penalty area, and Welbeck was there, and he got a nudge on the ball, but nothing more than that. And he shuts his eyes and he looks up to the sky, Danny Welbeck, because that was a big chance for the former Arsenal striker to make it 1-1.
That's their first really big chance, Chris, isn't it? Good powerful play from Belieber leading up to that chance, but someone of Welbeck's quality would have looked to score that goal for sure.
Does have 3 this season, Danny Welbeck, for Brighton against Everton, Manchester United and Nottingham Forest. And I think, judging by his reaction, he feels he could have done more with that. Belieber on the halfway line for Brighton, who are just beginning to feel their way into this. Lewis Dunk, a doggy with the strong challenge, but only because Dunk's ball was short, and now Spurs can set the pace of Timo Werner away on the left-hand side, but Werner has carried on running and not taken the ball with him, and Brighton have turned it over and now have it with Minte, and Minte crossfield pass from right to left to locate Mitoma, who's going to try and run past Pedro Porro into the penalty area. Mitoma pulls it back, and it is cleared away by Bentancur, who found himself in the right place.
Very quick counter there, Chris. Werner was in a great position, just stumbled over the ball, unfortunately, and you saw Brighton respond. Mitoma's pace, his left flank is clear to see. It's got to be used more often. Such a weapon for Brighton.
It's Kadiolu swinging it in right-footed. Minte's at the far post. His first touch was poor. He's still got the ball, but he's had to reset a little. Then he crosses with his left foot, and it's blocked by a doggy's back. It's behind for a Brighton corner, but the initial pass to find Yankuba Minte from Kadiolu was perfect.
Superb delivery, another big chance here, and you can hear the reaction from the home fans, Chris. They want to see it, they want to see some sort of response, and they're getting it right now.
And the 20-year-old £30 million signing from Newcastle United in the summer, Yankuba Minte, is on this corner. Brighton in their blue and white stripes, going from right to left. Minte left-footed. What a ball in that is, and it's headed away and behind for another corner, but the referee has seen an infringement in there, so it didn't matter in the end that a doggy put that behind. It's going to be a Spurs free kick instead.
I didn't see the offence, Chris. I think Brighton were keen to get around the goalkeeper Vicario. There you see the shove on Maddison.
And by Veltman again, those two are enjoying a good old battle, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Kulusevski, great feet, breezed away from the challenge in midfield. Igor was there on him. He was the one who took him out, and that is why the Brighton defender becomes the first player to go into the book this afternoon.
You can see Spurs' ploy here is working really effectively, Chris. So Kulusevski and Maddison dropping deep alongside Bentancur. There's a 20-yard, 30-yard gap up to Solanke, and Kulusevski is filling that space so effectively, dropping into it, nice flicks, releasing Johnson, etc., releasing Porro. So it's a very clear Spurs ploy, but it's proving really troublesome for Brighton.
Spoke a lot about Dejan Kulusevski, didn't we, on the game, ahead of the game here on 5 Live. Ange Postecoglou saying this week that he has unshackled the Swedish international by moving him into that more central role. And here he is on the ball in a central position, out to the right for Johnson, and then back with Pedro Porro, who has been recalled for the Spain's international squad in the last few days. Now to the right again for Johnson. Kulusevski's cross, did it take a deflection? It did, up into the air, and then caught by Verbruggen, the Brighton goalkeeper.
But in a very effective Spurs display so far in 35 minutes, Chris, I think Kulusevski has indeed been their best performer. You saw him again break on beyond the defensive line and just get the cross over there. So he's been very good so far, causing so many problems, and it's that timing of the run and dropping into the holes which is proving so effective.
Good hold-up play by Danny Welbeck. He had Christian Romero right on his back, and he still managed to chest that down in the direction of Mitoma for Brighton to keep possession, trailing Spurs by 1-0. Brennan Johnson with it for Tottenham, but Brighton with success on this left-hand side. Kadiolu now into Welbeck in the penalty area. He's had to come out of the box again to get it back to Kadiolu, who's poked it round the corner for Mitoma, just about kept it in play. Back with Welbeck, but he's not where he wants to be at the moment. Danny Welbeck out on this left flank. They will want him in the box, Brighton. Kadiolu, now he is in the box, Welbeck, and he's looked to tee it up for Hinshelwood, and Bentancur had a relatively straightforward interception in the end.
No, but they need to see that. They need to see some spells of possession, Brighton. As I say, it's only 30-40 seconds there, Chris, but just take control of the football, look after it, and give the fans something to cheer about. That's what they want to do. You hear the reaction to it.
Kadiolu is starting to stretch Spurs now with Mitoma on this left-hand side. These two are working well. Back with Mitoma again. Right-footed cross up to that far post where Hinshelwood was. And we saw how good he was in the air against Nottingham Forest with his goal here a few weeks ago. But he's headed that 5 yards wide of the left post of Vicario.
I think there'll be many Brighton fans here, Chris, relieved it's only 1-0. It could be a lot worse after that first half an hour. So 1-0, they're getting their foot into the game now, creating some chances. And they'll be keen to see what they can do before half-time.
0-0 earlier today on 5 Live. You were listening to John Murray and Clinton Morrison bring you the coverage between Aston Villa and Manchester United. 1-1 between Chelsea and Nottingham Forest. Here's Solanke for Spurs, releasing Werner down the left-hand side. Werner's in the Brighton box. He's cut it back for Maddison. Maddison shoots right-footed, and Maddison scores. It's 2-0 to Tottenham. And I wonder whether Bart Verbruggen would like that moment again, because it just seemed to slip underneath the gloves of Bart Verbruggen, who is wiping his goalkeeping gloves over his face in disappointment right now. James Maddison with his second of the season for Spurs, and they have got a grip of this game at the Amex Stadium. Brighton 0, Tottenham 2.
But there's that ploy, Chris. When you watch the replay here, Chris, look at the gap, the ball up to Solanke, so much space to turn, and forward runners, Timo Werner going, etc., Maddison, Kulusevski, there's the gap. Ball goes into Solanke, he can turn and drive forward, and Spurs have green shirts flooding forwards. And the only surprise really is Maddison gave the keeper a chance to save it. Great position there. I thought it hit the net anyway, but poor goalkeeping at the end, but a tremendous Spurs move.
It's really not one that Bart Verbruggen will want to see again, and for a goalkeeper that has been so brilliant for Brighton since his arrival, that is a very uncharacteristic error from the Dutchman.
He should have done better, Chris, undoubtedly, but again, look at that movement. You know, whoever's dropping into the pockets, whoever's breaking forward, fullbacks, wide players, Spurs rotation is causing so many problems for Brighton, and they can't deal with it. It's 2-0, it could easily be 3. They fully justify this lead.
So James Maddison with goals now in the Premier League this season against Brentford and against Brighton, as Porro guides the ball back to his goalkeeper Vicario, and Van de Ven comfortably strides out of defence with it, gives it to a doggy back with Van de Ven as well. But all of this is happening in Spurs' own half at the moment, before Maddison, Spurs' latest goal scorer, Sends it wide to a doggy, back with Maddison. Brennan Johnson is in all sorts of room on this opposite side, the far right, if Maddison can get his head up and see him, but he couldn't. He was squeezed for room in midfield, and Brighton break with Hinshelwood, and they've got bodies blocking forward here. This is Minte, who's in Spurs penalty area. Over there is Bentancur. He's done a good job there, Rodrigo Bentancur, to block that Brighton attack.
He really has. They turned the ball over Brighton. We've got to say the Spurs players are enjoying themselves, Chris. You saw Maddison there. The manager won't be happy where he lost the ball, but it's full of confidence all across the team here, and they're enjoying the game.
Kadiolu teed back for Kaoru Matoma. Brighton, who have conceded 6 first half goals now in their past 2 games. Kadiolu swings it in from the right. Their header from Welbeck, just wide of the left-hand post. Vicario lunging to his left-hand side, the Tottenham goalkeeper. Wasn't sure if that ball was going to be planted into his bottom corner. It's drifted wide of his left post.
Certainly, that's the second header. Ball's coming in from Brighton's left flank, Chris. They've got to try and do more for this. Need to get a foothold back in the game. They'll be looking to go in without conceding any more goals before half-time, that's for sure. But balls, cross deliveries from this left flank are proving slightly problematic for Spurs.
We're 5 minutes away from half-time, and talking of which, we will hear from Erik ten Hag, the Manchester United manager, from Unai Emery, the Aston Villa boss, and indeed Nottingham Forest Nuno Espirito Santo at half-time with Steve Crossman. And obviously reflecting on what we have seen here as well in the 40 minutes that we've had so far, because Tottenham, as it stands, are going into the top 6 of the Premier League table, leading Brighton by 2-0, Mark Warburton.
I'd like to see the stats of this first half, Chris. You saw then the ball went forward from Spurs, and the speed.
Kadiolu looking to get Welbeck away. Talking of speed, There was Mickey van der Ven. Didn't look like it was going to be his ball. Appeared from nowhere to get ahead of Danny Welbeck and put it out for a throw.
But there's a high line, ball in forward's favour, and van der Ven covers the ground so quickly and recovers tremendously well.
Kadiolu still got it for Brighton, gives it to Matoma on the edge of the box. Getting it back again is Bentancur. He seems to be in the right place every time, Mark, and that cannot be a coincidence.
No, he's working so effectively. Again, look at Kulusevski. We've broken. Johnson comes deep. Kulusevski, but look at the far post.
Kulusevski sending it into the penalty area. He's trying to get it to Werner. Maddison is eventually going to get it to Werner. Werner's got it by the byline, and Werner couldn't get past Joel Veltman, who used his body well to ensure that the ball was shielded, and Verbruggen, the Brighton goalkeeper, could get down upon it.
I've got to say it's a frustration. Werner gets into a great position, shows pace to get past the defender on the 1v1. It's just that final quality, the final ball, Chris, that really Spurs should be out of sight here already.
Seeing Fabian Hürzeler right now in his technical area. He is sat down, the 31-year-old, has said previously that he wants to make the Amex the castle that no one wants to enter. Well, so far Brighton have had the drawbridge down to access it via the moat, because Spurs have run all over them.
They really have, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to see a change, Chris. I mentioned slightly earlier, because they have to change something here. Spurs are in total control of the game. They're moving the ball with real pace and purpose, and every time they break forward you think they're going to score a goal here.
This is the England international Lewis Dunk on that far right hand side. The challenge on Veltman by a doggy. It's going to be a Brighton throw in line with the edge of Spurs penalty area, but it's Brighton 0, Tottenham 2. Brennan Johnson and James Maddison, the Spurs goal scorers, if you were just joining us, as Minte gives away a free kick. Or was it Jorginho Ruta maybe? But some of those Brighton forwards just haven't managed to impact the game so far.
No, they really haven't, but I think that's testimony to how good Spurs have been here. They really have. Every time Brighton have looked like causing a problem, the pace of Van der Ven or the experience of Romero have shone through. So they've looked comfortable, they've looked purposeful, and they totally deserve the lead, Chris.
Brighton 0, Tottenham 2. Here is Maddison, who got the trademark darts celebration out off the back of scoring that second goal. He almost looked surprised himself, Maddison, that the ball eked underneath Bart Verbruggen.
He did, but we're seeing this movement again as you speak, Chris. What Solanke's dropping in, defenders are unsure whether to go with him, forwards, midfield players are breaking beyond him, and they have no answer to it right now. So I'm sure whether he changes personnel or style, I think the manager will do something at half-time.
Kulusevski again, lovely touch from Solanke, and he puts it through for Brennan Johnson, who sees off Kadiolu and then shoots over the top of the crossbar. Brennan Johnson, again a slick, startlingly quick Spurs move. Solanke, Kulusevski, Brennan Johnson, who barged Kadiolu out the way, and then his end product is over the top of Verbruggen's crossbar.
Solanke may not be on a score sheet, Chris, but so effective, so impactful. He's dropping in, causing no end of problems here. He looks full of running, full of confidence. Great to see.
Dominic Solanke, who is in the England squad again, that Lee Carsley has named for those games against Greece and Finland for the first time in 7 years. In fact, it's the second longest wait for a second England cap between your first and your second in 100 years.
Because again, there's Kulichevsky breaking forward down this right flank. Johnson drops deep, drags defender out, and Kulichevsky exploits the space behind.
The Spurs, who are going towards their own supporters in this first half, will be lapping this up. Kulichevsky ran out of space in the end. Brighton take it away from him. But the pressure is on for a fast clearance, which Porro has stopped, and now off Mitoma's head. The Spanish right back has got it again, and he goes back to the halfway line for Romero. We're inside the final 60 seconds of the first half. Here's Maddison. Romero's located him with his clip ball forward down the right-hand side. And then Bentancur's pass is out of the reach of Porro. And it's going to be a Brighton throw.
Again, Chris, as the ball turned over, you saw Maddison, the 10, coming all over and on the press, winning the ball back, and the ball falls to Porro's feet. So very effective press, great energy from Spurs, well organised, and they're in a really good frame of mind right now.
Ange Postecoglou looks content, and that isn't necessarily a facial expression that you would have associated with Ange Postecoglou in the first few weeks of the season, Mark.
No, absolutely not, but he's stuck by his beliefs. All credit to him. He's brave in his play, and he absolutely believes his philosophy, and it's a joy to watch. As a neutral, watch his attacking play, Chris. There's no problem with that at all. I think the Brighton manager Fabian will have some more problems to deal with here. He's got to change something because Spurs are so very dominant.
3 minutes of stoppage time as we reach the 45-minute mark of this first half. There is just a little bit of bright blue sky trying to get through the low grey clouds that are drifting over the top of the Amex Stadium, which is probably a feeling that is replicated within Brighton's supporters' souls at the moment. Here's Mitoma, low ball in, stopped by the sliding Romero, and then cleared away by Tottenham up towards Solanke, who has his heels caught by Belieber. Spurs have got a free kick, and they will happily run the final couple of minutes of this first half down, I'm sure.
I've got to say, we're waxed lyrical about how good they are going forward, Chris, but defensively there's a real resilience about Spurs. Good positioning by Romero, Van de Ven behind him. Defensively they're well organised and defending their goal with a real passion, which you have to see. You can score goals, but you can't concede them, so that resilience is quite clear this afternoon.
Tottenham haven't won a game here for a couple of years. In fact, it was 2 years ago this month that they last won here under Antonio Conte. 1 goal scored by Harry Kane, who seems to be a theme of the first half. Even though he's not around these parts anymore, he's a name that you can hardly get through a commentary without mentioning when you're talking about Tottenham. This is Romero, and Spurs just eager to take the pace out of the game, it seems, in these final 90 seconds of this first half, as they go back to Vicario in all yellow, who turns 28 tomorrow, the Italian international, Tottenham's keeper. Here is a doggy up inside Brighton's half, shouts for handball against Belieber, waved away by referee Coote.
Brighton need to do something here, Chris. They've got to stop this ball into Solanke. It's far too effective, far too easy for Spurs to play it. It's causing far too many problems.
Dunk lifting it forward, Romero reading the situation, getting his head on the ball 10 yards outside his own penalty area. Gives it to Johnson, who knew the ball was going to run out of play, so he had to get something on it. And sliding in, he sends it down the line and back into the possession of Brighton again. But they've only got 60 seconds left in this first half to try and find a route back into this game, trailing by 2-0. Here is Igor with the braided hair, left-footed ball, downfield 40 yards, and the flag is up against Ruter, which is applauded by Pedro Porro and Christian Romero, who were the two who were closest in attendance to Jorginho Ruter, Brighton's record signing. It's a Spurs free kick, and Mark Warburton, this is probably the last action of the first half.
I would think so, but again, good defensive line, well disciplined, held it well, and the player runs offside. That's the type of run Brighton are looking to affect and impact Spurs, but so far they've been defensively really well organised.
So final few seconds of the first half here on 5 Live and via the World Service. A little look at the watch from the referee, and there is the half-time whistle, and what a fabulous 45 minutes for Tottenham Hotspur, and we are saying that a fair bit at the moment. Goals from Brennan Johnson, 6 in 6 games now for Spurs, and James Maddison, although Bart Verbruggen will not want to see that again, and at half-time, Mark Warburton, Tottenham are in control.
No, they really are. The only frustration for Ange, I think, will be that the gaps are even wider, Chris. They should have been 3 or 4 ahead. They've missed some really good opportunities, but from the very opening whistle, they looked effective, they looked pacey going forward, they looked dangerous, good rotation, good movement, and causing problem after problem for Brighton. So something I think has to change by the manager. Be keen to see what he does at half-time.
As it stands, Spurs are going up to 6th in the Premier League table. At the break at the Amex, Brighton 0, Tottenham Hotspur 2.
Brennan Johnson's numbers, Mark Warburton, are just astounding. I've just looked back through Harry Kane's Spurs career, right? I'll mention him as well. So he played over 400 games for Tottenham. Once did he score in 6 games in a row. Brennan Johnson's just done that. Amazing.
No, he has, but confidence is high, and it's amazing what confidence does to a young player. That was a big move for him. If you look at him as an individual, you know, big price tag coming from Forest into Spurs. He got settled into a huge club, and it takes time. You know, it really does take time to adjust and get used to new surroundings. So fair play to all the people around him, the support network. But what the player is just oozing confidence right now. He looks dangerous. He looks pacey. He missed a chance there, blazed over the top. He just smiled, turned around. He's ready for the next chance because he knows his Spurs team are creating so many chances. So for him, Solanke, Werner, etc., it's a joy to play at the moment.
6 goals this season, 6 goals in the entirety of last season. It's only the first week of October. Brennan Johnson on fire, Tottenham in control. Thank you both. We'll be back for second half commentary. Brighton 0, Tottenham 2 at half time. Full times in the Premier League already today. Aston Villa 0, Manchester United 0, and Chelsea 1, Nottingham Forest 1. We've got lots to get through, including hearing from Eric Ten Hag, Unai Emery and Nuno Espirito Santo. Robbie Savage will join us as well ahead of 6:06. The lines are open 08085 909 693. You can get your calls in right now. We'll wrap up all of the other live sport today as well after the news with Joe Hornby.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
The Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, Sue Gray, has resigned. In a statement, she said that intense commentary about her role risked becoming a distraction. Last month, sources told the BBC that Sue Gray's pay was higher than the Prime Minister's. She will take up a new job as envoy for the nations and regions. Our political editor Chris Mason says the identity of her replacement is significant.
Morgan McSweeney, who was the campaign director for Labour during the general election campaign, been very close to Keir Starmer ever since he became Labour leader, and indeed prior to that. He now becomes the Chief of Staff, as I guess the government tries to get a grip on its central operations after what has been, in part, a bumpy start for them.
Israel's military has urged the residents of another 25 villages in southern Lebanon to leave their homes as it continues to strike Hezbollah targets. The group's stronghold in the suburbs of southern Beirut has been pounded by airstrikes. Our correspondent in Beirut, Hugo Bechega, went to an area that was hit overnight.
Residents told us that this was a commercial building, there was a sweet shop, but it's very interesting that when we were there, we could see the tail fin of a mortar, unlikely to have been used by the Israeli military. And this has been an accusation being made by the Israeli army that Hezbollah has its weapons storage facilities in civilian areas.
In London, thousands of people have attended a memorial event in Hyde Park to mark 1 year tomorrow since the Hamas attack on Israel, in which around 1,200 people were killed and 250 taken hostage. And the Home Office says 973 people came to Britain after crossing the Channel on small boats yesterday. That's the highest daily total so far this year.
On BBC iPlayer.
Marcus Calderwood identified me before he died.
Why did he identify you?
I don't know.
A cop who smashed his car into a guy trying to save the planet.
Allegedly, he's still entitled to a defence.
I don't think we should touch this. Starring Michael Soccer and Adil Akhtar.
Before we go to court, is there anything I need to know?
The new series of Show Trial.
I'm Officer X.
Watch all episodes from tonight on BBC iPlayer.
This is 5 Live Sport
with Steve Crossman.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
Half-time, Brighton 0, Tottenham 2, second half commentary on the way. I'm not sure I need to tell you that Eric Ten Hag is under scrutiny at the moment at Manchester United. His team drew 0-0 at Aston Villa. Here he is with Lee Blakeman.
Everyone is disappointed when we are 14th in the league. And we have to be better in that area when you don't score and you don't win games. But also when you give easy goals away, like last Sunday, the first, then also you don't win games. So that are the two areas we have to step up if you want to be successful. But also you have to reveal this is a good team. There's a lot of potential in this team. We are really going in a good direction because 4 clean sheets tell something about the good organization you have.
You're the manager, therefore a lot of the criticism comes your way. How are you finding that at the moment? The constant criticism, the constant scrutiny. When you're in your position trying to do a job, how tough are you finding it?
That is, maybe you can think it's unfair. It's some bringing the criticism, but in the club we are together. We know the process, where we are going. And we made the decision, ownership, leadership, staff, players, they are all together. And we are in this process and we keep improving this process, and we are convinced we will be successful in the end of this.
The ownership and the leadership were here today as well. They were sitting just behind us. Eric, are they with you? Have you been reassured about your position by them?
We talk every day and I know where we are.
That's Erik ten Hag. Manchester United 14th after that then, and Aston Villa are 5th. Here's Unai Emery with Lee.
Unai, a point and another clean sheet. Just your thoughts on today?
Yes, good evening. The clean sheet is important. But it's not the best result, not the worst. But I think the draw is fair for both teams. Maybe the first half we didn't control like we were preparing the match, and they changed something tactically more than we planned. And the second half we played changing something tactically. I think we were better in our idea to impose and to dominate with our position on the pitch with the players, and reducing the capacity to keep ball possession and to get our box and to create the chances. They did, one crossbar, one fault, but I think we were better, and we finished it close to score one goal with 2 chances we had, but I think the result is fair for both.
Lines open for 606 08085 909 693 to speak to Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton. Afternoon, Rob.
Afternoon, Steve. How are you? Have you woke up after that first game? Me. Wow.
Well, I was just thinking, what do you want to talk about? What do you want fans to chat about that? Has it shifted the dial on Ten Hag at all?
Well, I was in Porto, Steve.
Oh, yeah.
2-0 up. Their away form in Europe is terrible. 1 win from 10, conceding so many goals. And then today, you've got to say, it was better, but I think watching the game, Aston Villa can play much better, and probably, we'll think, we're disappointed with a point in terms of where they are. And Man United, listening to the manager there saying, it's, we can, improve, we can get better. It's 4 clean sheets. But you look at the attacking options, Steve, 5 goals, only Southampton have scored less. They're 14th. I think the big question is, because I'm not one for saying managers should be sacked, Steve. Chris winds me up saying, I can't do that being in a position I am. But what I will say to Manchester United fans is, do Manchester United fans have the belief, after watching the last 2 games with how much pressure on the manager, that they are getting better? £350 million on the bench. Villa's starting 11 didn't cost that much. So when is this project going to start showing how good they are? Because I can't see it. Listen, I don't know where they are, but with international break, I think Ineos have got to come out and say, we're going to stick with him till the end of the season, just to stop the speculation, or make a change, because it's going to be every game, Steve, isn't it? And but it's Man United. Somebody said Man United are irrelevant. Well, they're not. They're the most relevant club because everybody always talks about them, and that's why we're talking about. When you've got, and let's be fair, Steve, in the media, if you've got nothing to talk about, if you do a piece on Manchester United, it gets the most hits. It's the biggest club in the world, and that's why there's that much scrutiny on them. It was a better performance, but they didn't look like scoring. I know that the crossbar, but how do they score more goals? 5 goals they've got in the league, and they're 14th. I don't want to see managers lose their job, Steve. And I think the big question is to Manchester United fans, do they want to stick with Erik ten Hag? And if so, how do they get better?
Go on, sorry.
Sorry,
no,
mate.
You're all right.
And if they want to change, who would they put in place?
08085 909 693. Cheers, Rob. Have a good one.
Cheers, mate.
6:06 follows Brighton versus Tottenham. We have got the second half coming up for you very shortly. There was a really entertaining game between Chelsea and Nottingham Forest. That finished 1-1 a little bit earlier. We can hear from the Forest boss, Nuno Espirito Santo, speaking to Martin Fisher.
Nuno, a point at Chelsea. What are your overall reflections on that? Because that second half was a right ding-dong, wasn't it?
Wasn't it? Yeah. No, I think the full game was a very good game of football. Both teams trying. I think we were organised. We tried to play. We played. We create. In the second half, like you say, was for who's seeing it here in the stadium at home for, so it was very funny.
Your away form, Nuno, must give you enormous pride. Unbeaten this season, 8 points out of a possible 12. You've won at Liverpool. You've drawn here. What's the secret to picking up points away from home? What are you getting right?
Look, honestly, we don't make a difference between home and away. I think the issue for us is trying to solve what's happening at City Ground, and we're gonna assess it now in the international break, and going in a positive way, because, like you say, away we are doing really well, but we are not doing so well at home. So the issue is solve the problem at City Ground.
Nuno Espirito Santo. Elsewhere in the Scottish Premiership, both Celtic and Aberdeen are still perfect after 7 games. They both won thanks to 88th minute winners, actually. Celtic 2-1 at Ross County, Aberdeen 3-2 at home to Hearts. In the Championship, it finished Bristol City 1, Cardiff City 1. A 0-0 draw against Everton means Arsenal only have 1 win from their first 3 games in the WSL. Here's Leah Williamson.
If you asked me a couple of seasons ago, I think I'd have said that felt like we'd lost the league even now, because the points weren't being dropped elsewhere. Maybe I'm hoping that is the case this year, but from our front, we don't expect to have that many games like that, and for it to come so early in the season is disappointing.
Can I just ask about going forward in Bayern Munich on Wednesday? Obviously you played them a couple of years ago. What do you think will have changed? What will be different from a couple of years ago when you take to the pitch on Wednesday?
I think we're a more mature squad than we were then. I think the way that we play the games, the way that we go into games, but I think the intensity is still the same. You're playing 2 really high intensity teams against each other, and I know that they're in form, but I feel like so are we. I know we dropped points today, but we are, so I'm looking forward to this one.
And how important is it for the club to be back at the top table, European football?
Oh, massive. That qualifying for the Champions League, I said it, that's the most important week of our season until the last, really, in my opinion. This football club has to be in the Champions League. The backing that you got 25,000 here today with no crazy advertisements or pushes to sell tickets. That's how many people want to come watch us, and they deserve Champions League nights as well.
Leah Williamson with Paul Scott. Arsenal play Bayern Munich 5:45 on Wednesday in the Champions League. We've got commentary of Chelsea Real Madrid on Tuesday night and Manchester City Barcelona on Wednesday. They're both 8 o'clock kickoff. City are top of the WSL after beating West Ham 2-0 away from home today. Other games, Spurs 2, Liverpool 3 thanks to a late penalty. Leicester 0, Crystal Palace 2. At the Women's T20 World Cup, Scotland couldn't make 3 figures. West Indies closing in on victory. Dan Norcross.
Yeah, they need 100 to win, and they've knocked off 73 of them in the first 10 overs. They need 27 from 60 balls. They have, though, lost 4 wickets. We've seen some really good enterprising batting from Kiana Joseph, who's hit 31 off 18 balls before she was out off the bowling of Olivia Bell. We've seen a brilliant caught and bowl from Olivia Bell, well worth watching on the highlights. Took her 3 grabs to do it, but it's a really spectacular one. At the moment, Deandra Dottin's in there alongside Chanel Henry, 2 veterans of the West Indies. They need to win, the West Indies, because they lost their first game, and they need to win well, and they're trying to do that. Unlike India earlier today, they're showing real enterprise in trying to hunt down this small target. They're 73 for 4 off 10. They need another 27 runs for victory in 10 overs.
Commentary now on 5 Sports Extra. In the men's game, the first test between Pakistan and England in Multan gets underway tomorrow. Full commentary on TMS, 5:45 a.m, 5 Sports Extra. Ben Stokes ruled out with a hamstring injury. So Ollie Pope continues to deputise in his absence as captain, and we can hear from him now.
We've trained really well the last 3 days, and I think that's just the nature of cricket at the minute, and especially Test cricket. You don't always get those warm-up games in, and that extra time to acclimatise, just the nature of the schedule. But the boys are feeling really good. Everyone's fresh and ready to go.
It's an odd situation, actually, because some players have played a lot, and some players have played hardly anything. I think of someone like Zach Crawley. What about him?
Yeah, he's good. I think when you get injured, you always have the time to kind of reflect. I think there's always a positive you can take from getting injured. I've had it with my shoulders, and you've got that sort of freshness and that energy when you do get back fit and ready to go. And I think that mental preparation, but also the preparation he's done with the bat over the last few weeks, will put him in really good stead for this series.
Some other sports stories. Tyrrell Hatton won the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship in the last few minutes, finishing one shot clear of the field at 24 under. Coco Gauff won her first title since January, beating Karolina Muchova at the China Open. In rugby union, England's women face New Zealand in the WXV tournament in Canada tonight. Kickoff is 9 p.m. England recently beat the world champions at the Allianz Stadium last month. You can watch that game on the red button on BBC iPlayer or via the BBC Sport app and website. Coverage starts at 8:50. And in horse racing, Blue Stocking has given British trainer Ralph Beckett and jockey Rossa Ryan their biggest win, with victory in the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe at Longchamp. Right, we're ready for second half commentary at Brighton. Don't forget 08085 909 693. Get your calls in, because 606 will be with you after full time. Chris.
And lots from a Spurs perspective to talk about, I'm sure, with Chris and Robbie tonight, as it stands, at least in positive waves, because they are 2-0 up at Brighton with the second half just underway. Brighton have made a change at half-time as well, so they're second of the afternoon. They lost Adam Webster to injury in the first half. Eagle came on for him, and now Kadiolu has departed for Estupinian at half-time, and Tottenham have immediately got themselves a free kick here, about 5 yards outside Brighton's penalty area, towards this left-hand side for a foul on James Maddison, who's been swiped at by Carlos Baliba. So a Spurs free kick, and once that's out the way, Mark Warburton, I'll run through the two teams in full for you. But Tottenham already started with the same intent that they completed the first 45 minutes with.
Absolutely good forward ball straight away, and they win a free kick in a very dangerous position. The change by Brighton, I think they have to solve that problem with Johnson and Kulusevski. They've gone for a straight swap by looks of it, Stupinan, but it'll be interesting to see how that shapes up in the coming minutes.
So Maddison, who is just readjusting the white ball, raises his left arm into the air, swings it into the penalty area, right-footed. It came off Solanke's head initially, and when it came back in again, it's up and over the top of the crossbar. Christian Romero was pretty close to it, so it is a Brighton goal kick. So the two teams for you. For Brighton, Bart Verbruggen in goal, who was most certainly at fault for that second Spurs goal from James Maddison. Veltman, Dunk, Igor and Estupinian now forming their back line, but as I say, two of those four have changed since the start. Baliba and Hinshelwood in midfield, Minte, Ruter, Mitoma, and then Welbeck for Brighton. And Spurs, with their 2-goal lead from Johnson and Maddison, have Vicario in goal, Porro, Romero, Van de Ven and Udogie, and then Kulusevski, Bentancur, Maddison, Johnson, Werner and Solanke in their forward line. And Mark Warburton, you spoke about Dominic Solanke's impact in that first half. No goals, but so much work for the team off the ball.
He was outstanding, Chris. He really was outstanding. He was dropping into some difficult positions there for Brighton to deal with. His movement created the space, dragged defenders out of position, and allowed the likes of Maddison, Kulusevski, Johnson, Bennett to run beyond. So a really impressive first half performance. Brighton have to do something. I'm not sure what else they've changed apart from like for like, and Kadioglu was good getting forward and combining with Mitoma, so they've given something up in the attacking side.
Mitoma's ball into the box is a dangerous one, and Brighton have got a goal back immediately. Yankuba Minte was there, and he has fired that low to the left-hand side of Vicario, and Spurs, who were barely flustered in the first 45 minutes, have conceded within 3 minutes of the start of the second half, and Minte has his first Brighton goal, and it's game on again. Brighton 1, Tottenham 2.
And we spoke about how well organised they were defensively, Chris, in the first half there. Stopped by two centre-halves, and somehow Brighton are back in this game. An early goal was everything the manager really wanted, and the fan base, of course, but Ange will be fuming to give away something of that nature.
Just bounced off the boot of Destiny Udogie and fell perfectly for Minte. So the 20-year-old, who came for big money, £30 million they paid Newcastle United to bring him here in the summer. He was with Feyenoord last season, so does have plenty of experience even in his tender years, but he has opened his Brighton account, and he has opened this game right back up again as Veltman in the right back area for Brighton is being forced down by Werner. It comes off the Spurs striker, and it's out for a goal kick, but Fabian Hürzeler has the response he would have wanted.
Absolutely, Chris. It was a tidy finish. It was a tight area on that near post, and he got his goal away and got his reward, so all credit to him. but Spurs will be raging, Chris, to come out after half-time. They had the early free kick and a good attacking position, and they've given Brighton a hold back in this game now.
He still stood, Ange Postecoglou, with the big black jacket on, hands in pocket, but he is very subtly, I've just seen him shake his head down there, the Australian, as Van der Ven goes back to Vicario, who will not be able to have a clean sheet to go with the one he got at Manchester United last week. So that wait for successive Spurs Premier League clean sheets, which has been going on a year, will continue for now, and Brighton have got the ball on the halfway line with Dunk.
You understand his frustration, Chris. Again, they've been totally dominant, showed great quality. They should, no exaggeration, to say 4, 5, 6 goals ahead, and yet they find themselves now at 2-1 and Brighton on the ascendancy. That's why we love the game, I guess.
And Belieber lifting it left-footed out towards that far right-hand side, stopped by the head of Porro, and then bounces off the legs of Brennan Johnson and out for a Brighton throw. It will be so interesting to see whether this now changes the whole momentum and feel of this game.
Well, you want to see the next 5 or 10 minutes be so critically important. Brighton need to get some momentum, some possession, play forward, pose a threat to Spurs. Spurs, on the other hand, will be looking very much to get hold of this football and take care and control possession, and ease their way back in and show their quality.
Hinshelwood from midfield trying to send it over the top, and the ball trickles through to Guglielmo Vicario, the Spurs goalkeeper, who then sends it out with his right foot to the far right hand side for Porro. Forward it goes for Kulusevski. Stepping in was Igor in midfield, and then lifted forward again up towards Brighton's back line, where Lewis Dunk is waiting and just calmly nods it back to his goalkeeper for Bruggen. So Brighton 1, Tottenham 2, 5 minutes into this second half here on 5 Live, as Joel Veltman moves forward from right back, flanked by Werner, tried to play it into the feet of Ruter, who took his eye off the ball and it moved away from him, and Spurs get it back with Bentancur, and then Porro calmly plays a ball across Spurs' own half to Udogie on this left-hand side, who moves forward with the green boots, Destiny Udogie, and the braided hair bouncing behind him, and back with the tall frame of Mickey van der Ven, and Spurs build from their back line with Romero.
And they have looked comfortable, Chris, haven't they? First half, and now in possession and moving the ball nicely with real pace and purpose about what they do. But as I say, it's a soft goal to give away here, and they want to establish their dominance again in the game.
Here's Kulusevski, though, down the right-hand side. Igor reads the situation, makes the interception, gets there ahead of Kulusevski on the seconds as well. Porro's won it back, though. Spurs have got it with Kulusevski, and the sliding challenge from Estupinian sends the ball out of play for a Tottenham corner.
Big tackle by Porro there to win the ball back and reclaim it in that defensive third. Spurs get the reward of the corner here.
So Tottenham going from right to left in this second half, from our position low in the press box. We're only about 10 rows or so from where the two managers are currently stood or sat in the case of Fabian Hürzeler. Ange Postecoglou is walking around his technical area at the moment. 6 minutes into this second half. Short corner from Spurs on that far right hand side to the edge of the box, lifted in by Porro. Romero's there, free header. It's gone wide of goal. Van der Ven stopped it from going out of play for a goal kick with his head. Spurs will try and rebuild again here. It's back in for Brennan Johnson at the near post, stopped by Verbruggen. Johnson was offside. He looked like he was offside, and the flag has gone up against him.
But the Brighton manager must be concerned. There's so much space for Romero on a delivery, slightly overhit, made it difficult for him to have a good connection, but too much space in that critical area, Chris.
Well, Fabian Hürzeler, Mark, was saying, wasn't he, after the defeat against Chelsea last week, that the game plan wasn't good enough, and he was very happy to speak to his own players about ways that they could find tweaks to improve that, which I guess shows it's not a dictatorship under Fabian Hürzeler.
Absolutely, it shows a maturity for a young manager in terms of he knows there's players who have been here, who are vastly experienced, and he's open to that line of communication, so fair credit to him. He listens to players and tries ideas. At the end of the day, Chris, he lives and dies by his decisions, so I'm sure he'll do what he thinks is right, but I think he's a very responsive manager in that way.
Spurs with the ball in their own penalty area. Vicario's clearance has deflected towards Destiny Udogie, who's run away from Hinshelwood, and down the line it goes for Werner, and on it goes for Udogie again, who's continued his strong run down the left. Was he caught there, Destiny Udogie? No free kick. It is going to be a Spurs throw, but Veltman, who made the challenge, is asking for a pause here so he can potentially get some treatment. He might have hurt his knee here, I think. That seems to be what he's holding, his left leg.
Yeah. He went in there for the challenge. I'm not sure if his stud's caught in the ground or not, Chris. He just felt it there, didn't he? His left knee.
slowly getting back to his feet, Joel Veltman, but bear in mind that at half-time, Fabian Hürzeler made a change in his full-back position. He took off the other one, Hadiolu, to bring Estupiñán on.
Well, they've got a ready-made in Tariq Lamptey, haven't they? Should it come to that? But I'm sure I'll be keen to keep Veltman on the pitch right now.
Tottenham 2-1 up at Brighton. Here's Werner, who got himself into some good positions for Spurs in the first half. The German tries to come infield. Dunk takes it off his toes. The broad-shouldered Belieber now has it for for Brighton, and this is Igor. Low out to the right-hand side, the right-back position for Veltman, and Welbeck, who's come into some space to retrieve it for Brighton on the halfway line. He's drifted his pass out to the left-hand side for Mitoma. Estupiñán's run on ahead of him. Mitoma into the box. Here's Minte. Takes it down nicely. Right side of the penalty area, Minte, trying to find the space to deliver it into the box. He can't do it, so he's had to go backwards for Dunk. Out to the right for Veltman again. His cross takes a deflection. Vicario unsure. And he just, with both of his hands, pushes it over his own crossbar for a Brighton corner.
Difficult for the goalkeeper. One of those horrible balls that comes in off that deflection, Chris. And Vicario made a good decision there to tip it over. But again, Brighton broke the press. Spurs were working hard to close them down. Broke the press, got Welbeck on a half turn and got their reward.
Corner is taken. Estupiñán crossing up into the air and caught by Vicario after the initial win by Jorginho Ruter. So Spurs temporary pressure relieved.
No, there's a definite drop in their tempo, Spurs, but that comes more from the confidence. I think everyone in the stadium was shocked by that goal just after half-time, such as the dominance of Spurs in the first period, but it's all there to play for. The next 5-10 minutes will be so crucial.
Werner has it taken back off him on this right flank, and Ruter's got it for Brighton, but he ran into traffic. And then Kulusevski beaten to it in the middle of the park by Mitoma. Here's Ruter, Welbeck, Mitoma running at Spurs. Mitoma shoots left-footed, Vicario down to his right-hand side to push it away, and then claims it as it comes back in towards him at that near-post area from Estupiñán.
Now that we see more mistakes from Spurs in his first 5 minutes of the second half, 10 minutes second half, Chris, than we did the whole of the first half. Losing the ball in the key area, that time Kulusevski, and they were so good at taking care of the football in that first 45.
Kulusevski beating the challenge from Igor on the far left-hand side. Kulusevski running forward across the box to Solanke. He couldn't get there, and Veltman then prods it behind for a corner because he knew that Werner was beyond him.
No, rapid counter-attack, great pace there shown. You see Ange's frustration that again they haven't got their rewards there. Good pace going forward, bodies being committed, and they should really get that third goal.
It's brilliant again from Dejan Kulusevski. The speed, the awareness to get there ahead of Igor, and then to carry that ball and send it into a perfect area, really. Just marginally out of the reach of Solanke.
No, he's had a very impressive game so far, Chris, hasn't he? But Spurs need to get this. They're only one goal ahead now. For all that dominance and quality of play, they know Brighton.
Maddison with the corner, short to the edge of the box for Kulusevski, the dummy, which has sent the ball in for Porro, who's tried to be inventive with his chip into the box, but nobody was on the same wavelength as him. I don't think they wanted to be on that Pedro Porro wavelength because it wasn't the right one. Into the hands of Verbruggen. And Brighton rebuild from the back with Veltman.
No, again, just looking at Spurs' presses there. Werner again closing down Veltman, denying that forward option. But I think Ange will be very keen to maintain this energy, Chris. So, again, wouldn't be surprised to see some substitutions to add those pace in the coming 5 or 10 minutes.
Mitoma into the penalty area. Now Ruter! It's 2-2! Brighton have scored twice in 13 minutes at the start of the second half, and Jorginho Ruter has scored 2 in 2 weeks for the Seagulls. From nowhere, Brighton on level terms at the Amex before the hour. Brighton 2, Spurs 2.
We spoke about goals, Chris, in this game, didn't we, before kick-off. I don't think anyone expected Brighton to respond in this way. As good as Spurs were in the first half defensively, we've been stacked second half. You can see that. Goals given away, and Brighton are back in it. Here we go.
What will Spurs be thinking defensively there, Mark, just because it feels like Brighton have picked them off with ease?
Well, you've got two centre-halves around the ball there. Look at Van der Ven coming over. Udogie, that shouldn't be a problem. He should never get his finish away. But he's found space, found half a yard, and he's got his goal. So fair play to Ruter. Tremendous play from him, but Spurs will be raging. Ange, again, not happy at giving away a comfortable 2-goal lead.
It's a lovely shift in direction from Ruter, and then such a crisp finish with his left foot to send that out of the reach of Vicario into his bottom left-hand corner. It's Brighton 2, Spurs 2. We felt this would be entertaining. Boy, is it entertaining. What a great half an hour we've got remaining here.
We really have, because now you've got the stadium alive. They come here, they wanted a response. We spoke about in the first half. They've more than got that response. Here we are at 2-2-all. Well, that'd be a great last 30 minutes. But Spurs have got to be careful. Brighton in ascendancy, they're on the front foot. They're getting some confidence. Be very careful now, the next 5 or 10 minutes.
I get the sense this one might be leading the way on Match of the Day too tonight. 10:30 on BBC One. Can catch up on the highlights from Chelsea and Nottingham Forest 1-1 draw earlier, and indeed that goalless draw between Aston Villa and Manchester United, as well as the rest of the weekend action. We'll go to the cricket in just a moment, because Spurs have got the ball at the moment. They're about 15 yards inside Brighton's half. 2-2 the scoreline. Here's a doggy, and now Werner off this left-hand side. Spurs number 16 pulls it in on his right foot, and Kulusevski's made a late run into the box. Kulusevski tries to poke it through for Maddison. It was intercepted, and Brighton get it away. So let's find out what's happening in the Women's T20 World Cup. West Indies are playing Scotland. Henry Moran is watching.
West Indies have won quite comfortably, 6-4-6 from the bat of Deandra Dottin. She takes down a target of 100 inside 12 overs. Big victory for West Indies to help their cause. Scotland, it's 2 defeats in 2.
Cheers, Henry, and don't forget we'll have England beginning their test series in Pakistan tomorrow with TMS on air from 5:45 a.m. on Sports Extra, so set your alarm nice and early if you fancy getting up and joining the team for that one. Almost up to the hour. Spurs free kick. Maddison sent it into the box. Who's gone down there? Solanke's taken a tumble. And in fact, the referee has given the free kick against Dominic Solanke, I think.
Yeah, I think there's the foul on Balaba there as he's running towards the goal. But a poor free kick for Brighton to give away there. They've got to take care on that. There's no point giving Spurs a foothold back in this game.
Oh, Ange Postecoglou, I've just caught sight of his face. The Australian is less than happy. Here's Minte. He might get even worse for Spurs here. Welbeck up to the edge of the penalty area. He's pushed it on for Mitoma. Mitoma shoots. It's blocked well by Tottenham. Oh, they needed to get bodies in the way of that. Brighton were pouring blue and white shirts forwards.
This game has just opened up, Chris, completely. As good as I said they were, Romero and Van der Ven. Welbeck's now coming off, getting a half turn, causing problems. And Mitoma really should have scored from that position. Really open game now.
Brilliant Premier League football live here on 5 Live and via the World Service. Spurs 2-0 up in the first half. So in control of this game with those goals from Johnson and Maddison. But listen to the Amex now as Veltman sends it down the right-hand side for Minte. Towards the byline, he's up against Van der Ven. He's got it on his left foot. He's gone past Van der Ven. He's now sent it into the box low. And there was a doggy to help out Van der Ven, who got himself in 6s and 7s. It's a Brighton corner.
It's almost like they swapped shirts, Chris, isn't it? It really is. It's a carbon copy of what Spurs did to Brighton in the first half. They look dangerous going forward. They're creating space. They're incisive. And they've got a real goal threat.
Minte is placing the ball down, the man who scored the first of Brighton's 2 in this second half response, to take this corner right in front of the Spurs fans, all 3,000 or so of them in the south stand. And Minte with his left foot has gone very deep with the corner. Dunks won the header to send it into the 6-yard box, and Porro with a cool head to nod it back to Vicario.
No, but Ange's looking for that cool head now to look after this football. Is turn over to quickly take the sting out of Brighton's momentum here at the moment. Just look after the ball for 5 minutes, have good quality possession, and don't give anything away cheaply.
This is not the sort of control that we've seen from Tottenham in games in the last couple of weeks.
No, not at all. But all credit Brighton. You know, they were really almost down and out, Chris. They've come back here and given a real response for the fans, and which obviously the fans enjoying it. There's that movement of Solanke dropping deep in the hole, and that's the first time this half we've seen it from Spurs.
Maddison for Van der Ven, who's under a bit of pressure from Belieber, who's not going to let Van der Ven get away from him, so he's had to go back to Vicario. Belieber was on Van der Ven in a flash there, and the Spurs centre-half didn't like it.
Well, you know, as we mentioned the stats before, didn't we? Both teams so high in the running stats. The players are fit and they're strong, and they're closing down to 9 space.
Both of these two have averaged over 61% possession in Premier League games so far this season. They both love to have the ball, and they are desperately trying to each get a feel of it at the moment.
Absolutely, Chris. And they want to be purposeful. They want to get the ball and play forward and as I say, be really impactful in the decision-making. But right now, Brighton have weathered the first half storm. They've come out and they look very impressive themselves right now. So we should be in for a tremendous last 25 minutes.
The bright Mitoma away from Kulusevski, couldn't escape the second challenge from Porro, but he's gone and got the ball back off Kulusevski, who has hauled him over. It's going to be a Brighton free kick, 15 yards inside Spurs half on the opposite side to us, the far left.
Again, Hinshaw were looking to get away early, but playing the game there, the referee did well to control that. But again, it's now Brighton winning the free kicks, the Spurs are winning in the first half. Soft free kicks being given away by Spurs, which really highlights their frustration.
08085 909 693 if you would like to get involved in 606 tonight with Chris and Robbie. 85058 is the text number, hashtag BBC 606, which will follow immediately after this game, and there could be so many more talking points still to fall out of this.
We've had more than enough so far, that's for sure, but there's a lot more to come, as you quite rightly say. But now we're seeing it. There's that one in behind, which we saw Spurs do so effortlessly in the first half, Chris.
Sorry, Mark, Minte's just scrapping for it. I thought he was going to get away from Edogi. What he has got is a Brighton throw, and it's pretty much on top of that blue corner flag in the deep in Spurs half on that right-hand side.
I think it's a bit of stunned disbelief from the Spurs fans of that end, Chris, of what they're seeing here from a game they were enjoying so much of being total control. It really has been a complete reversal.
Veltman dries the ball off and then takes the throw in towards Ruter, who has escaped the challenge. Ruter, oh, he's got the cross in, and Brighton have scored again! It's the former Arsenal striker Danny Welbeck, all alone, 6 yards out, to complete the most remarkable second half comeback from 2-0 down. Brighton are 3-2 up on Tottenham.
I've got to say, I spoke about resilience in that last period of the first half, Chris. I'm looking at Ange now. He must be looking on in total disbelief, losing challenges, giving the ball away in dangerous areas, digs out the cross, and a fantastic finish from Welbeck. They deserve what they've come out second half, and I'm looking around at the Spurs players, frustrated, angry. They themselves now need a reaction.
This is quite scintillating from the Seagulls. Nobody saw this coming. Ruter has not given up on a lost cause there. He wriggled away from challenges. The ball looked like it had escaped him by the byline, but he slid in to get there ahead of Maddison, and on the slide he's provided an assist via a deflection off Maddison, and Welbeck, all on his own, heads it into the corner.
I'm sorry, Chris, those challenges are too soft for defenders. They've got to win those balls. They're in their area defending their goal. Ange will be raging at giving away goals of that quality. Soft challenges are lost in key areas, and Brighton have capitalised.
And the Spurs faces, the Spurs body language could not be at more of a juxtaposition than it was in the first half. 67 minutes in here, and this stadium now, from a home fan's perspective, is alive and kicking.
No, and the manager made fair play to the Brighton manager. He made a change at half-time, and they've responded accordingly. But this game has changed completely. It's now Ange probably who needs to look to change us up.
It's the game we thought it might be, and Udogi's about to go into the book here, because he has just cleared out Minte, whose quick feet and turn of direction fooled the Spurs defender. Yellow card for him. Brighton free kick, really, really deep inside that Spurs half on the right.
Chris, you mentioned the £30 million, the hefty price tag in that first half. I've got to say, in the second half so far, he's showing the qualities that merit such a tag. He's been lively, he's been bright, he's been a thorn in the sides of the Spurs defenders, and he's been really impressive.
Those Brighton goals, 48 minutes, 58 minutes, 66 minutes, from 2-0 down, 3-2 up. And Minte back on his feet, feeling his shoulder, but feeling like he's walking on air at the moment as he takes a swig of some water or an energy drink down on this touchline given to him by one of Brighton's backroom staff. And Hinshelwood and him, Minte, are putting the ball down here to see if they can cause Spurs another problem, who feel like they're rocking.
They really are rocking. The confidence just appears to have seeped away from their showing of agility I didn't think existed within the Spurs ranks, but the resilience we spoke about has certainly gone for now.
Hinshelwood with the free kick in towards that near post, headed away by Pedro Porro for Spurs as it goes up towards the halfway line. Estupinian gets there, nearly manages to thread it through, and Estupinian instead goes to Hinshelwood on this right-hand side, and now it's with Minte, and back with the Brighton midfielder Hinshelwood again, young Jack Hinshelwood, who has been with the club since he was 7. His dad Adam is a former Brighton player. His great uncle Martin was a director of football at the football club. Mitoma, who's had an electric second half, Mitoma, and he's now won a free kick for Brighton as well. Kulusevski's body checked him, and immediately off the back of that yellow card for Destiny Udogie, there is another one here, and it's come the way of Kulusevski.
You're seeing some frustration creep into the game here. In the first half, we saw Spurs win challenges, pick up second balls and play forward effortlessly. That's what Brighton are doing now. They're winning these challenges in key areas of the park, Chris, and they're hurting Tottenham. And free kicks are being given away needlessly in dangerous areas.
Feels like every Brighton fan inside this stadium are on their feet at the moment. 20 minutes to play, Brighton free kick in towards that near post, didn't even reach the penalty area in the end because Kulusevski has stopped a short one, and now they can burst forward with Kulusevski, who has run past one but not able to escape Estupinian, and it's out for a Spurs throw.
Huge frustration for the Brighton manager there. They get that free kick at dangerous area and a really poor delivery by Henchwood, but again they got back in numbers, kept their defensive shape, and the ball turned over.
Just feels like we need to take a breath and reset for these final 70 minutes, because you just sense there's going to be more to come.
Yeah, you do very much so, because I'm just looking at Ange, what is he going to do here in this position? They really have had their confidence seeped away from them. Brighton have been so positive, they're now making more changes, I think, in terms of Francisco coming on, so they're going to go and attack and try and win this game, so Spurs need a response themselves.
Spurs on the attack here. Werner's collected a lofted ball on this left wing. Werner for Kulusevski, sliding Belieber at his feet, gets the ball behind for a Spurs corner. They're 3-2 down against Brighton.
And I saw this earlier from the Brighton manager. Fair play to him. He's going with an attacking substitution. They've got themselves in front, 3-2, but again he wants to ram home the advantage. So I really like this attacking intent.
Yeah, and Ciso is stripped off with the bleach blonde hair. A little tap on the back from one of the backroom members of Brighton staff. Spurs have got a corner over towards our left-hand side, taken short by Maddison, back off him from Kulusevski, lifted up looking for Romero, headed away as far as Werner, and now on the far right-hand side of the penalty area for Tottenham is Porro, whose cross is repelled by Belieber, who can't prevent it going behind for another Spurs corner, this time on the opposite side, the far right.
And they need this, Chris. They need a period of, not saying dominance, but a little bit more control of the football and attacking Brighton. It's been all Brighton second half. Fully deserved to come back into this game, so Spurs need this positive spell.
Remember, Tottenham have won their last 5 games straight in all competitions, and 2-0 up at half-time. There shouldn't have been any cracks in the confidence, but there have been. Spurs corner in towards that near post. Welbeck got on it, so did Minte. The pair of them between them have diverted the ball away from Brighton's penalty area, and Werner goes back to the halfway line where Udogie collects it, and he turns backwards to give it to Vicario in all yellow.
Yeah, I think this is a time now where the substitutions can be so vitally important. As we talked about, you just mentioned Ciso coming on here with another attacking option for Brighton, but Spurs need something here now. It's a little bit flat, a little bit laboured. They need to get back into this game.
Werner from the left side fancies a run at Veltman, shoots right-footed. Werner over the crossbar, probably by about a yard, maybe 2 from Timo Werner. Hit it reasonably well, just too high.
You did, you just want to test the keeper, don't you? And Solanke was loitering to pick up the bits there, but ball sailed over the crossbar and Brighton looked comfortable.
2 Premier League goals for Spurs, for Timo Werner, but both of those came back in March. And are Brighton now going to make that change? They're not. Fabian Herzler is happy to wait before sending Enciso on, so Brighton send it upfield towards Welbeck, who was impeding Romero from reaching the ball. The free kick has gone against Brighton's goal scorer, the latest goal scorer for Brighton, along with Minte and Ruter. And now we are going to see that Brighton change, I think. Enciso is desperately telling the 4th official he wants to come on here.
I think he's waiting here for Weaver as well to come on, number 27 for Brighton, so a double substitution.
Yeah, so it is going to be 2 changes, and the first of those departing is one of their goal scorers, and he's going to get a great reception as well, because he took his goal brilliantly. Jorginho Ruter, the club record £40 million signing from Leeds United, a goal last week against Chelsea, and a big one here today against Spurs. So Julio Enciso is on for him, and we know that Mats Wiefer, as Mark mentioned, the Dutch international, is also going to be introduced, and Carlos Belieber, who's gone through a lot of hard work in that midfield, is the other player that is departing for Fabian Herzler's team.
And that's the key point, Chris. You mentioned the hard work there. Both Belieber and Ruter went through a lot of work here, worked tirelessly, closing down and covered big distances. So a good change by the manager. Let's see how the subs react and respond to this game.
So a double Brighton change. Coming up on 5 Live this week, we've got 2 Women's Champions League games on 5 Live and on BBC Sounds. Tuesday night we'll have Chelsea against Real Madrid. Wednesday, Manchester City against the holders Barcelona. So a real test against 2 of Spain's giants. Win today for Manchester City in the WSL. They beat West Ham United by 2-0. Liverpool 3-2 winners at Spurs. Arsenal held by Everton. Palace got a 2-0 win at Leicester. But our focus at the moment is on matters here at the Amex, where Brighton are 3-2 up against Tottenham, and there is just over 15 minutes of the 90 to play.
And I'm looking for a reaction, Chris. I'm looking for Spurs to come round and change something in the game, and right now we're not seeing it. They're giving away, even there, Bentancur gives away a sloppy free kick, gives Brighton a chance to calm things down and control the football once again. So Spurs need to show something. The time is running out. From a very dominant position, they're going to go over with no points here if they're not careful.
Just seen a shot of Solly March, the Brighton winger on the bench. Hasn't played for a very, very long time for the first team because of a knee injury. Made his return for the under-21s for Brighton yesterday. Wouldn't normally mention a scoreline involved in the under-21s, but Brighton beat their great rivals Crystal Palace 10-0 yesterday, which I think probably is worth a mention.
It is worth a mention. You don't see that, do you? For a number of reasons, really. But as I say, the fact that Brighton, Solly March coming through such a game and being ready for the manager is a huge plus for them.
Yeah, he got 25 minutes yesterday, Solly March, which was always part of the plan, so expect to see him back in this Brighton first team squad soon. As Spurs have the ball halfway inside their own half, and the Tottenham fans are trying to get behind their team, and maybe there's a way back into this now, because Werner with a doggy to his left hand side, a doggy's ball across the box, cleared away by Hinshelwood, who has swept it out of play for a Tottenham throw on this near left hand side. And Spurs are making some changes shortly as well, and 2 midfielders are going to come on. Both Basuma and Sarr are ready to go.
No, they have to change something here. And so I'm looking at the way Brighton have nullified the threat from wide areas. Both Johnson and Werner have been far quieter this second half. So fair play the manager. He's made the tweaks. He's got Minte especially working really hard to negate Werner's threat. So he's done well with those half-time decisions. But now Spurs need to make a call.
And obviously Yves Basuma, a former Brighton player as well. So let's see what sort of reaction he gets in just a moment when he comes on. Here's Van der Ven for Tottenham, up towards Maddison. The layoff for Bentancur, out to the left-hand side for Werner, took it on his chest well, pushes it down the line for a doggy, who is now inside Brighton's final third. Back with Werner again, out of his feet to Bentancur, who starts sending the ball from the left out to the right-hand side, because Romero's got it now. He's a fair bit advanced here, the Spurs centre-half. Porro on the far right-hand side, back with Romero again.
But again, Brighton's defensive shape so much better second half, Chris. They're screening the central defenders here. The ball's not getting to Solanke's feet. They're negating that wide threat, and they're working tirelessly to keep their shape and frustrate Spurs.
Sarr and Basuma are warming up frantically, waiting to come on just down beneath us on this right-hand side. Tottenham have got the ball on the flank, far right-hand side. They're going from right to left in the all-green in this second half, but they have relinquished, if you are just joining us here on 5 Live, a 2-goal lead. Can they get themselves back into it? The cross into Brighton's penalty area, blocked well by Estupinian, who has prevented it from going out for a corner as well, and then gets there ahead of Johnson for a second time, the Ecuadorian, to clear for Brighton. Van der Ven has it for Tottenham. Here's a doggy 20 yards inside Brighton's half. Low ball to Werner, who is fancying himself up against Joel Veltman, who is standing firm. So Werner goes back for a doggy again. Kulusevski, edge of the penalty area. His feet weren't quite sharp enough for Hinshelwood, but Enciso dallied, and Spurs get it back off him. Here's Bentancur, now Werner, a deflected ball which has dropped to Porro on the edge of the box. Porro shoots right-footed. It's come off Igor, and it has spun away out to that left-back area where Estupinian can collect it for Brighton.
Again, they got numbers back, Brighton. The threat from Spurs was evident, but Brighton got numbers back, the men behind the ball, and cleared their lines. You can hear the fans' response to that. Spurs are trying to probe and press here, but Brighton are working very hard to keep their shape.
Here's Maddison shooting left-footed from the edge of the box, and he was always tumbling, James Maddison. He never really had his balance when he got that shot away, and that's why it's off target in the end from James Maddison.
Yeah, if Brighton can limit Spurs to 20-25 yard shots, they'll be more than happy. They were being broken down in the first half time after time, but they're far more resilient, far more defensive shape evident right now, Chris. So Spurs need to change something. It looks like Bentancur and Werner being the men coming off now for Basuma and Sarr.
were a few boos for Yves Bissouma, the former Brighton midfielder, when his number came up on the board there. 28 months since he left the club in that £35 million move from Brighton to North London. He had 4 seasons with Brighton, played well over 100 games for them.
He did, but another tremendous piece of recruitment business by Brighton, that model working so well, Chris.
A pensive look on the face of Ange Postecoglou as the camera zooms in on his face. We are moving up towards the final 10 minutes as Verbruggen is cautioned for time wasting by referee David Coote, and is ordering that he puts the ball back inside his 6-yard box as well to deliver this ball upfield, the Brighton goalkeeper, which he does. A little bit of drizzle is beginning to fall again from the sky here as Welbeck holds the ball up well. Minte collects it for Brighton. Minte, Ruta and Welbeck, the Brighton goal scorers. Mitoma on the far left-hand side, testing Pedro Porro, the Spurs right back. Takes it back off Estupinian. Now down the line for Enciso. Romero with the sliding challenge. And the ball bounced up off Enciso. And it's going to be a Tottenham goal kick.
Tremendous challenge there, went in there. Stopped the corner there, Chris, for sure. But Mitoma, what a qualities. We know how good a player he can be, but this second half he's really come into his own there and causing no end of problems down Spurs' right flank.
What has changed ultimately, Mark Warburton, in this second half from a Brighton perspective, and maybe from a Tottenham perspective too?
They made the one personnel change, but it was like for like in terms of shape. I think they've screened far better, made the call on Solanke. They've stopped the ball coming into his feet, so that screen is in place. Hinchell was doing a very effective job second half, and also the wide men, Minte especially, are working so much harder to work with their fullback and stop the threat of Johnson and Werner. So they've made some tactical tweaks which have proved very effective.
Here's Udogie doing well. Udogie coming infield, couldn't escape Vifa, who is then closed down by Maddison, and the ball's bounced off the Spurs man. And a play for a Brighton throw. Kulusevski's come out to this left-hand side now, and I guess from Ange Postecoglou's perspective, maybe he didn't feel like he wanted to throw someone like 17-year-old Mikey Moore into this equation at 3-2 down.
No, he did so well midweek, didn't he? And he really made an impression and caught the eye of all the Spurs fans, football fans in general. But this is a big game here now. Kulusevski's been very impressive so far, but gone quiet last 10-15. He has to try something. But as I say, Brighton are working so hard to keep their defensive shape, where in the first half, Chris, they were almost wide open at times.
Minte, pass was intended for Mitoma. Porro got there. Mitoma has left the boot on Spurs' Spanish right back, so it's a Tottenham free kick, 10 yards inside their own half. Romero needs to get that ball down quickly as far as he's concerned, so he can play the pass, which he does. He's given it to Bissouma. He plays it wide for Pedro Porro, just inside the Brighton half, with the floodlights pounding down from the big arching stand here at the Amex Stadium opposite us. And Igor trying to see it out of play for a goal kick. He couldn't take that chance in the end, so he sends it upfield. Estupinian collects it. He's lost his balance, but then on the ground still manages to play the pass. Purvis Estupinian. Back to Verbruggen it goes.
I must be honest, I'm hoping we're going to see it, but I would have expected more of a reaction from Spurs here. They've gone from that dominant position to find themselves 3-2 down, and we want to see that response we spoke about for Brighton the first half, Chris. But right now, Brighton look quite comfortable.
It is going to be Tottenham's first defeat, if things stay as they are, since the North London derby.
I think they need to change something again here. Again, as you rightly said, going the last 10 minutes here, plus some added time, you need to show some change of play here.
Mikey Moore is getting ready, so we are going to see the 17-year-old. He's just putting his jersey on now. Maddison for Tottenham, lifting it on that left-hand side for Udogie, who is trying to get up to support as much as he can now. Destiny Udogie from that fullback area. Here's Bissouma, one of those Spurs changes from the bench. Mikey Moore's just getting a few instructions from the Tottenham coaching staff. As Kulusevski collects the ball, closed down by Vifa, it's dropped towards Udogie. Udogie's going to shoot right-footed, saved by Verbruggen, who manages to get up just in time to get his paws on the ball at the second time too.
He'll be relieved there, Chris, after that goal of the first half, but again, good feet by Udogie, made the space, made half a yard and got his shot away. A good reaction save.
He'll be so disappointed, won't he, Verbruggen, having conceded that goal to James Maddison in the first half. As you say, Mark, that will do his confidence the world of good, as Van de Ven on the stretch under pressure from Minte, and the deflection's been kind for Brighton. Welbeck sending Minte away. He's in the box. Basuma with the challenge. He got enough on the ball, I think, in the end. Basuma, he was desperately lunging in. He's deflected it over the bar. It is going to be a corner. That is the eventual decision. I wondered for a moment if he was going to give away a penalty.
That's what I thought. That's my next shout, Chris. I honestly thought he was going to go down there under that tackle. Again, the threat, but they're the challenges. Van de Ven losing a key challenge near the halfway line, and suddenly Brighton are in behind the Spurs defence again, and they've got to do the basics. They've been so effective in that first half, but now not doing the basics really effectively well at all.
Lines are open for 606 08085 909 693. You can book your call right now. Brighton are 3-2 up against Tottenham. 6 minutes to go in this game, and if they have got the corner as well here from the far left-hand side, and they're just waiting for the go-ahead from David Coote to take the corner, which eventually is swung in by Enciso. Brennan Johnson's header away. Minte's got it now, 30 yards out. He's going to shoot Minte. Probably wishes he didn't. He's sent that about 10 rows back into where those Tottenham supporters are.
Absolutely, but he's looked lively, hasn't he? Been very impressive second half. Had a huge part to play in their recovery here, so fair play to him. Maddison coming off now for Mikey Moore with his last 6 minutes to play.
So here we go. If you haven't heard the talk about this young man in recent days, let me fill you in. He is only 17 years old, and only turned 17 actually in August, Mikey Moore. He's Tottenham's youngest ever Premier League player. He started during the week against Ferencváros in the Europa League and turned in a very mature performance by all accounts, and here he is on the pitch for Spurs, and immediately he's going to get on the ball because it's been lifted down the left-hand wing for Mikey Moore. So here he is up against Veltman. He's crosses left-footed. It's stopped by Vifa, who takes a touch and then hooks it away down towards Minte, and Van de Ven almost lost his footing, then regained his composure, gets the ball for Spurs, gives it to Solanke with Kulusevski, tries to go through the legs of Vifa, which he achieved, but Welbeck then steals it back for Brighton again, and then he's lost it, Welbeck, to Kulusevski, who runs towards the byline. He's pulled it back into the penalty area. The touch from Solanke. Solanke's crossed towards the far post. Nobody was there. Brennan Johnson was close, but not as close as Solanke would have wanted. And then Brennan Johnson putting the pressure on Estupinian, and the ball is out for a goal kick.
I like to replay again there, Chris, but a good ball by Solanke. Dug the ball out in a half time. I'm not sure Johnson was really expecting it to come across, but a great delivery there. But again, Mikey Moore's come on, and all fair play to Ange, trusting a young player in this situation.
So a Brighton change, and this is a significant one because for the first time Brighton fans are going to get the chance to see their new £25 million signing Brian Gruder, who joined from Mainz. He's still only 20 years old. He was injured on arrival. This is his Brighton debut, and he's coming into a situation with Brighton leading Spurs by 3-2. But remember, Tottenham were 2-0 up at half-time in this game.
And both managers deserve credit, trusting the young players to come on in difficult situations. So fair play to them, Chris. Again here, Matoma breaks down that left flank, showing great pace.
And Romero, who had a bit of a head start, gets there first, but only just, and manages to shuffle the ball out of his feet, so Spurs can try and rebuild with Basuma, who felt a tug on his shirt, and that's why the free kick has gone his way. So Tottenham have got 4 minutes to try and get a point here, plus stoppage time. They're 3-2 down. Johnson and Maddison with the Spurs goals, and then Minte, Rutter and Welbeck with the 3 in the second half that arrived between the 48th and the 66th minute.
I'll be keen to see the Spurs' reaction in this game if the score stays as it is now, because we want a disbelief and frustration, some anger as well, that to lose 3 valuable points from such a commanding position, it must be so disappointing.
Romero, 20 yards inside his own half, gives it to Van de Ven. Watch that assist from Mickey Van de Ven last week against Manchester United again and again. It was truly tremendous, but who is providing the inspiration now for Spurs in these final few minutes? Because right now it's Brighton who are going into the Premier League's top 6. 3-2 up against Spurs.
But again, we saw there the tweaks in their tactical shape to make down the ball to the wide areas of Tottenham were being cut out. In the first half, they were so open, easy to play for Spurs, but they've tweaked it and they've cut out that threat now.
And again, as Basuma sends it long over the top, too far for Solanke, into the hands of But Verbruggen, international teammate, of course, of Mickey van der Ven with the Netherlands. Those two will be together on the same team in those two games that are coming up in the Nations League for the Netherlands. Here is Estupiñán with the layoff for Mitoma on the halfway line, lifted back down the left-hand side for Estupiñán, and then Romero with his head getting it back towards Vicario. 2.5 minutes to go. Brighton 3, Spurs 2.
Again here, Spurs fans, you can hear a few frustration, want some urgency to the play. They are running out of time here. I'm not sure how much added. I wouldn't imagine too much, Chris. No major injuries in the second half here, but Spurs need to move this ball quickly and get some forward momentum.
A doggy for Mikey Moore. Mikey Moore tries to come inside Veltman. No foul on him though. Brighton bringing away with Vipa with the curly hair, the midfielder, who then spins a full 360 and gives it to Veltman, and then down this right-hand side for Gruder, who is trying to navigate his way past a doggy who stands firm, and Spurs get it back again with Mikey Moore with the socks low down on the legs, and Van der Ven, and now Romero, but Spurs have it, but they've got it just on the edge of their own penalty area at the moment as Porro goes long eventually down that right side for Sarr, whose first touch was exquisite, looking for Solanke in the box. It's run all the way through, and Veltman calmly has given it to Verbruggen. Brighton want to play their way out here, and with composure they're able to do that as Gruder goes back to Veltman, and Veltman eventually clobbers it down the right side and out of play for a Spurs throw.
But again, they dealt quite comfortably with that Spurs break there, Chris. He had numbers men back behind the ball, got defensive shape very, very quickly, and again the ball turns over, frustrating for Spurs.
4 minutes of stoppage time has just been indicated, so Brighton 4 minutes away from their first Premier League win in 5 games. In comes the cross on the right for Spurs. Solanke was in there, and the touch has just taken it away and taken off his toes, I think, by Igor. It's behind for a Spurs corner. They're still asking the questions.
Again, let's look at the replay here. I'm not sure I saw a touch there, to be honest with you, but he's gone down with cramp, Igor. Referee's watching his clock. They'll allow no games at this stage. But Spurs need a quality delivery. Time is running out very, very quickly for them.
He's got a touch of cramp, Igor. So those heavily tattooed legs are being seen to by a couple of his teammates at the moment. And now Spurs are going to be able to take this corner. Mikey Moore is on it, the youngster. And Tottenham have got pretty much everybody bar Pedro Porro in the box. Moore's corner towards that far post, headed away by Dunk. And upfield, Brighton scamper forward. Gruder trying to leave it for Mitoma, cut out by Kulusevski, picked up by Enciso. Kulusevski couldn't touch him because he's on a yellow card. Enciso, Brighton have got so many players in Spurs penalty area. It's Gruder to finish the game. Gruder for Brighton, took too long, he dwelt, and Spurs take it off his toes, and now they come forward.
Now it's open, they got forward numbers there, Brighton, but fair play Spurs, they got back very quickly and defended their goal. This is going to be really open this last couple of minutes, stating the obvious, of course, but Spurs need this, need the ball forward, need numbers forward, need to get something back.
What great Premier League drama in these final couple of minutes. Brighton 3, Tottenham 2, and 2 minutes of the 4 of stoppage time have already gone by, and Spurs have got a free kick on the halfway line. 08085 909 693 to get involved with 606 tonight. 85058 on the text. Hashtag BBC 606 if you're a Spurs fan. Get in touch with Chris and Robbie. Are Tottenham going the wrong way again? Long ball up to the edge of the penalty area. Dunk is there all alone and guides it back to his goalkeeper. No pressure on him at all.
No, and Angie's absolutely raging on the touchline there. What an awful decision. You go to Dunk, Brighton's biggest player, who can comfortably head back to his goalkeeper. But listen to the fans here now. It's been a tremendous second half. It's been a pleasure to watch this game of football this afternoon, Chris. But Spurs fans will be absolutely raging.
It's been brilliant. Fabian Herzler, the Brighton boss, on the edge of his technical area, indicating to his players just to settle down as Spurs get it back on the halfway line. It's clipped forward looking for Solanke. The ball didn't break for Sarr as maybe he thought it might. And now Gruder's got it for Brighton. 3-2 up here, they lead against Spurs. The forward pass, which is going to be collected by Van der Ven for Tottenham, but it's on the edge of his own penalty area, and Spurs have got 60 seconds and perhaps a smidge more, but nothing really on top of that to try and find a way through.
No, they need to throw the ball forward, throw numbers forward here. As I say, they're stepping in Brighton on the front foot. They'll be full of confidence now and running that was clearly lacking that first half.
Gruder trying to split the Spurs defence to find Mitoma, stopped by Romero, who sends it forward. It's too much for Brennan Johnson, and it's going to run through to Verbruggen, who takes his time then he scoops it up, and the seconds are ticking away from Tottenham and moving towards what is going to be one of Brighton's most impressive Premier League performances for quite some time.
And I think we have to say again, fair play to the manager. He stepped up, he had to make a decision at half-time. That's where he earns his money, Chris, and he's done that. He's tightened things up, he's got the screen, he's stopped Spurs balls into their forward line, and the problems they were causing in the first half have been completely negated. So well played the manager.
Final few seconds then, 10 seconds to play of the 4 minimum minutes added on of stoppage time. Spurs last attack probably. Kulusevski. Here's Mikey Moore on the left-hand side. Mikey Moore, great feet from him. He's gone past 2. Is he fouled by Veltman? A shake at the head from the referee. Brighton get the ball back. Everybody wants the full-time whistle to go. Gruder breaks. There is the full-time whistle. And Brighton completes the most astonishing victory. It looked beyond them at half-time, trailing 2-0 when Johnson and Maddison had Spurs in complete control. But they crumbled in the second half, and Brighton excelled. Minte, Ruta, Welbeck from 2-0 down. Brighton come back to win 3-2. Their first Premier League win in 5 games. They're into the top 6 in the Premier League table, and Tottenham's winning run, Mark Warburton, is over.
No, I've got to say here, I'm looking at a game of being in total control, Chris. To come out and concede so early in the second half is almost, you know, the way Ange reacted, you saw his face in that, but then to allow Brighton to dominate, to win challenges and to play forward, you have to say it's been a really poor second half by Spurs, but all credit Albion. They tightened up defensively, showed a real confidence and offensively, and they got the rewards this afternoon.
Well, George Cummings, our producer, is off to speak to Ange Postecoglou and Fabian Herzler, and I imagine one of those interviews is going to feel very different to the other. We'll bring that to you a little later on, live here on 5 Live on 606. Listen to the Amex Stadium. It feels like Brighton needed this result after those 4 winless Premier League games.
Absolutely, Chris. It was so flat in here, and after half an hour of the game it looked dead and buried. Spurs were dominant and in the ascendancy, but the fans rather have reacted. They've really enjoyed what they've seen. Their team has showed character and desire. They got back into a difficult situation to the game, and they've got the rewards of on all 3 points. So tremendous for the Albion fans.
A super finale to 5 Live's Sunday afternoon of football. Manchester United and Aston Villa drawing 0-0 earlier today at Villa Park. 1-1 between Chelsea and Nottingham Forest. But here is the big story, because Tottenham from 2-0 up have been beaten by Brighton by 3-2.
Mark Warburton, I'm slightly stunned by that second half. I know Brighton always look dangerous, but they were 4 without a win. They conceded 4 at Chelsea last week. They were 2-0 down at half-time today. Where has that come from?
We've got to be honest, they're going to be 4 down very comfortably at half-time today. Such was Spurs' dominance in that first period, but they've come out, and again the early goal is so important. It gives hope to the fan base and the players. Spurs suddenly have doubts in their game plan, but they responded so well, and I've said it on the commentary there, but you've got to give all credit to the manager. He had to change it, he had to tighten up, stop the supply to the forward line of Spurs, and he did that. So great choice, great work by the manager. The players responded so well, and the fans thoroughly enjoyed it.
I was just looking as the managers came onto the pitch. Ange Postecoglou looks as bemused as most Spurs fans will feel right now, just when you think they've cracked it. I mean, and I know this is an easy thing to say as he just stands there, Postecoglou, hands in his pockets, and a bit of a vacant expression on his face. That was very Tottenham, Mark.
Yeah, I hate to say it, here's a man born in Tottenham. I'm a Spurs fan, and I'm sitting watching it, but you saw the best and the worst, haven't you? You've seen tremendous quality. They could have been 4-5 up very, very comfortably. Totally dominant, and I'm sure the Brighton manager was very happy it was only 2 at half-time. But then that early goal almost pricked their confidence completely, and you saw it steep away from them, and with it, Brighton's confidence grew so quickly, and they moved the ball, but it was the challenges, losing the headers, losing the duels, not picking up second ball that they've been so good at in the first half. Ange will be angry, frustrated, and somewhat shell-shocked, I think, by what he's seen second half.
If I was going to chuck another cliche in there, Chris, it'd probably be insert comment about Brighton recruitment. Minte and Rutter, both excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. But interestingly, Steve, as well, they weren't in the game, either of them, in the first half. They had no impact at all on that Tottenham back line. But in the second half, it was like someone switched the light on, and I mean, the finish in particular from Ruter was excellent. And now, considering the goal he got at Chelsea last week, which was entirely different, really brave with the header to get up above Sanchez, they'll feel Brighton like they're seeing a bit of the worth and the money that they've spent on him, that £40 million to bring him in from Leeds United. And we spent the whole of the first half saying how big this is for Spurs moving into the top 6, and all of a sudden Brighton, who are in the top 6.
And that is a remarkable start for a new manager, isn't it, Mark? They're 2 points behind Villa and 2 behind Chelsea at the October international break.
No, it really is. But I think, as I mentioned earlier, I was here for the Man United game, and it was his substitutions which won the game. He went with a real attacking intent. And again today, you saw that he had to stop Spurs. There was no doubt they carried on as they were. Spurs would have run rampant in the second half, but he negated their threat. He was positive with the decisions he made, and as you saw, coming on with Cisco late on in the game, bringing on the young guy, 20-year-old, into midfield there. He's brave in his decision making, absolute belief in how he wants his game and the team to play, and I've been really impressed by that, and I'm sure the fans around me are as well.
What a game, what a way to end Five Live's Premier League Sunday. Thank you very much both. So Brighton 3, Tottenham 2.